current situation. At the same time, it will be a place to seek practical alternative for the future. Your participation in this conference will serve as a valuable foundation for a green future for our society. When we have active interest and solidarity, will lead to meaningful results. Today, hopefully you get a lot of good information from this conference, and then it will make your Korean community brighter and more innovative. Thank you.
Thank you, President Terry Zelensky.
감사합니다.
Now let's hear from President Jessica Wiskowski of Korean American Women's Association USA.
이제 미주 한인 여성연합회 회장님이신 온정희 회장님을 모시겠습니다.
안녕하세요. 제가 영어로 먼저 하고 그 다음에 한국말로 하겠습니다. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a true honor to be here at the 6th Korean Grassroots Conference in Tennessee with you today and surrounded by many passionate leaders and students and community advocates. I am the National President of Kawa USA, Jessica Wiskowski from Michigan. I came from Michigan. Anyone ever been in Michigan? Yeah, okay, good. So today's gathering reminds me of the powerful impact civic engagement has on shaping the attitude and mindset of the next generation. Last year, Kawa USA and the Korean American Community of Metro Detroit organization collaborated and hosted Grassroots Next Generation Conference, first time ever in Michigan. We awarded students a scholarship who wrote a freestyle essay about the event. 28 students attended. I mean, we have a lot of adults, but since the event was focused on next generation, so I was talking 28 students. But then 10 students were awarded a scholarship. When I read those 10 essays, I was deeply touched, and I was glad to hold this event because I saw that many students were changing their attitude and mindset. That civic engagement is not difficult and can start with the school participation because they are most of them high school students and a few college students. So they realize, oh, I can start from school participation. Also give them a self-confidence and pride in being Korean. So let's continue support one another, especially supporting the next generation of leaders who are already making difference by raising their voices. Our action is matter, and when we come together, we can create more inclusive, vibrant, and thriving society. Thank you for all for your commitment, your energy, and your belief in a better future. Let's keep working together to build it. Thank you. 안녕하세요, 국민 여러분들. 오늘 테네시 제6차 한인 뿔뿔이 컨퍼런스에 훌륭한 여러분과 함께 이 자리에 서게 된 것을 영광으로 생각합니다. 저는 미주 한미 여성의 총연합회 총회장 제시카 위스카우스키입니다. 미시간에서 왔습니다. 오늘 행사는 시민 참여가 차세대의 태도와 사고방식을 형성하는데 강력한 영향을 미치는 것을 저에게 상기시켜 줬습니다. 작년 6월에 미주 한미 여성의 총연합회와 디트로이트 한인의 KACLD 단체가 처음으로 그래스루트 차세대 컨퍼런스를 미시간에서 했습니다. 학생들에게 행사에 대해서 에세이를 쓰고 그런 제출한 학생들에게 장학금을 수했습니다. 그래서 28학생이 참가를 했는데 10명 학생들에게 저희가 장학금을 줬어요. 제가 그 10명 학생들의 그 에세이를 읽으면서 마음의 깊은 감동을 받았습니다. 또한 시민 참여는 어렵지 않고 학교 활동에서 시작할 수 있다는 그런 학생들에게 마음가짐을 가져주게 되었고 또 그렇게 함으로써 학생들이 학교 활동을 시작하고 또 제가 이제 제가 영어로는 얘기를 안 했지만 그 몇몇 에세이에 쓴 학생들은 제가 이제 오면 이제 어떻게 활동을 계속 하고 있느냐 했더니 제가 코리안 어소시에이션 그런 학생 그 클럽을 만들겠다고 그렇게 한 학생이 2명이 저한테 얘기를 했어요. 그래서 제가 그 피드백을 듣고 이 그래스루트이 진짜 많은 학생들의 감동을 주고 영향을 줬다는 것을 다시 한번 저한테 상기를 시켜줬습니다. So what I just said, because I didn't say it earlier, because I saw several students in one of the events, so I asked them, so how are you doing? How's your school activity? And then few students told me, you know what, now I am organize Korean clubs at school. So they are starting those activities. So I said, okay, great, and then please let me know if I can any help, So that's another, way. I'm so glad I did a grassroots conference in Michigan. 그래서 이런 행사가 얼마나 진짜 학생들에게 상기시켜주고 또 자부심을 갖게 해주고 또 한국인이라서 옛날에는 좀 소외된 감정을 느꼈지만 이제 한국인의 그 자랑스러움을 갖게 해주고 그런 거를 그렇게 쉽게 해줬다는 데서 저희가 감사하게 느꼈습니다. 그러면 앞으로 세계를 이끌어가고 변화를 일으키고 있는 차세대 리더들 우리는 지원을 해야 합니다. 또 우리가 또 함께 모일 때 서로 포용하고 활기차며 또 변형하는 사회를 우리가 이끌어갈 수 있습니다. 여러분의 헌신, 열정, 또 더 나은 미래에 대한 믿음에 감사드리고 우리 다 함께 계속 노력합시다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, President Jessica Wiskowski.
본정희 회장님 감사합니다.
Thank you, Consul Park, President Jelinsky, and President Wiskowski. Now we will focus on the importance of civic engagement.
박유리 공사님, 백현미 회장님, 본정희 회장님 감사합니다. 이제 시민참여의 중요성에 대해서 이야기를 나눌 텐데요. 이게 사실 본 게임입니다. 메인 이벤트라고 볼 수 있겠죠. 이게 6회째인 거 아시겠죠? 6니까, 그죠? 그리고 오늘 나오시는 분들은 DC에서 오셨는데요. 우리가 제일 중요한 게 이 행사를 왜 하느냐가 굉장히 중요한 질문이라고 생각합니다. 근본적으로 코리안 아메리칸 그래스루트 컨퍼런스가 왜 중요한지에 대해서 역사적인 관점에서 말씀해 주실 예정입니다.
Please welcome Mr. Won-Suk Song, Executive Director of the Korean American Grassroots Conference.
송원석 뿔뿔이 컨퍼런스 이사님을 모시겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 송원석입니다. 반갑습니다. Okay, I will go by my presentation mostly English because my part is relatively long. So if I go by both language and then everybody will go falling to sleep. But my message is more focused on the younger generation, the students theirs. So for them, I believe English is the first language, right? So I try to presentation in English, but for the excuse first, both my English and Korean is getting worse. I believe the 선배님들 will understand what I mean, right? I am executive director of the Korean American Grassroots Conference, which is called KAGC. which is a non-profit, non-partisan organization. Basically, we promote Korean Americans city engagement. And we are based on Washington, D.C., and I am here to explain why the city engagement is important, especially for the Korean Americans. And before I start my part, first of all, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the host 회장님들, like 권정 회장님, 황민 회장님, 백현민 회장님. So without them, I would never have a chance to visit the Nashville, Tennessee, this great city. And also, I would like to appreciate our consulate general of ROK in Atlanta, and also overseas Korean agency. I believe our motherland Korea is one of the most supportive country who care about their Korean diaspora. So without their support, we cannot host this kind of event. Without them, even our own organization cannot settle down in Washington D.C. So again, I appreciate your effort and then resource for the Korean diaspora. And also other distinguished guests and then attendees, the sharing this precious weekend time with us, and especially Joseph, because I know I know that feeling well, because everybody can speak English, Korean, and then you probably barely knows Korean, right? Right? But thank you for sharing your time with us. To explain why the city engagement is important, I started by my own story, then we'll give you a more detailed example or ideas why it is important. Let me introduce myself as I'm Korean actually, because I came here when I was late 20, and then I came to here for my graduate study, and I never thought myself as an immigrant. My goal was I get the degree from here and then go back to Korea and then get a nice job, right? And somehow it's already almost 20 years passed, and I got married with a second generation Korean American lady, and then 2 kids here, and then when I look at myself right now, it's I totally first generation Korean American immigrants, right? And English is my second language. I even finished my mandatory military service back in South Korea. My wife still teaching me as a father, and likewise I teach her, always teach her you are the white lady who just has the Asian appearance, right? And then but right now I'm not talking to you this because for showing off myself or bragging myself, but right now I'm one of the very important Korean American player in Washington D.C. in terms of the city engagement and also U.S.-Korea relations, right? But not because I'm culturally or languagely educated as American, but because of active city engagement, because of actively show my presence and actively raise my voice and thought in the U.S. Congress. That makes me one of the leaders in Washington D.C. So, the reason I mention about this, the beginning of this stage is because if I make this far, I believe the attendees here probably go farther than me, and especially next generation students that are here. You guys will be the more important key player, not only for the Korean American community, but also the U.S. mainstream area, whatever area is. So, my name is Won Sung. I'm executive director of KAGC, and then what I'm doing, frankly speaking, I believe my mom, and my mom is like in South Korea, and my parents-in-law, they live in here, like in America, and they even don't, I believe, don't understand 100% what I am doing. Because, and especially like outside of the Washington D.C., whenever people ask me, yeah, what's your job? And then like yeah, I would just say like, oh yeah, I'm executive director for the small non-profit organization, and then like I do not go further because like even the Americans, Native American, they cannot understand the concept of what I'm doing, right? But easiest way the speaking of my job is I'm kind of lobbyist. But if the regular lobbyist, federal lobbyist does like their job is advocate some interest group, mostly private sector or some foreign company or foreign government for their benefit to the U.S. both House and Senate side. But I'm the kind of public lobbyist to advocate interest and rights of the Korean Americans here. At the same time, the strengthening the U.S.-Korea relations. And then my leverage, the regular lobbyist leverage is like money or other benefits, right? But to the politicians or other interest group. But my leverage is your voice, your civic participation as a voter. And with those collective voice, I do advocate our own community for ourselves, mostly myself and also like for our generation, next generation and my kids. So in terms of that, like our organization, Korean American Grassroots Conference, if I like explain the mission of our organization, that will bring you more detailed concept, why I'm doing this and what I'm doing. So as I mentioned earlier, KGC has two big mission statements. One is advocate our Korean Americans community's interests and rights. And the other part is we care about the U.S.-Korea relations. Then I will explain why this two big mission is important later in my presentation. But these two big mission, we believe we can achieve this two mission, two goal by our Korean Americans and active civic engagement. So let's talk about why the civic engagement is important. The advocate the Korean American community's interest in writings is important. Anyone can speak up what is LA riot? We call this 4.29. Anyone? Student there? Or?
I can. Hi. At that time, I was living in California, LA. I was one of the victims. So at that time, we stayed in an apartment complex. And then next morning, when I woke up, and then actually my husband found out. We have a car in the parking lot. There's no tire. There's no car seat. There's no radio. There's no seats. Just only the car. And then we went to the office. They have a camera, but they tell you who did. But they didn't say anything. But they later on they find out even though my husband's American because I'm Korean. So they just stripped the car. So only I understand LA riots because they hate Koreans, especially Asian, right? Then nobody raised hands, so I thought that I just say, and then at that moment, I don't want to live in here. And then I want to go back to Korea, but my husband said, no, that's not the right way. You have to stay in America, you have to fight for it. But then what I did, I I moved to Michigan. But anyway, this is one of my LA riot story. Thank you.
다들 좀 편하게 들으셨으면 좋겠어요. 다들 이렇게 제가 무슨 이야기 하나 이거 듣지 말고 좀 인터랙티브하게. 왜냐면은 이게 like if you do not engage actively, like this is going to be really boring, right? So yeah, LA riot is happening back in 1992, right? It started like the conflict between black community and white community, and then I can say there's no fault of the Korean American community too, right? Because Korean Americans before even the LA riot in New York and or California LA area, there's some conflict between black community and Korean American community. So the main reason is the black community believe the Koreans they were making money from their food, right? And then they live in nicer place, and then drive nice car and never get involved with their own community where they have business, right? Those conflicts were there, but basically again it was the big conflict between the black community and the white community. And then when LA riots happened back in 1992, more than 90% of the monetary damages happened in the Korean town, right? If we transfer current currency, it's billions damage. And after that, till now, nobody made apology. Nobody says sorry. No one took the responsibility what happened back there. And then when the riot had happened at the first time, LAPD, police, and then National Guard, they set up the defense line. They definitely could include the Korean town in their defense line. They had time, but they excluded the Korean town and they just focused on the Beverly Hills area, which is in rich people's lives, right? Now, why that's supposed to happen? First, yeah, Korean Americans, relatively our immigration history is the short, right? And then at the time we are good, we settled down, and then financially it's good, but we were not real U.S. citizen or the member of the U.S. society, right? Because nobody advocate, nobody protect Korean American community or Korean American stores, Korean American business at the time. First, we don't have any connection. Second, and we don't have person, even to talk about ourselves on behalf of us, right? So the people who the scholars who research Korean American, the U.S. Korean American immigration history, they even says the Korean Americans immigrant history is definitely the LA riot is turning point. After that, we kind of reflect ourselves and then so we need to making money and then just 우리끼리 잘 먹고 잘 사는 거. That's not should be our only goal. We need to be the real U.S. citizen. And how we can be the U.S. citizen? Then easiest way is the civic engagement. The civic engagement, when we talk about the civic engagement, the civic engagement can include a lot of other activity, but one most important is get out the vote. Right? Whether your population is relatively small or not, but going to the poll site and then practice your rights as a voter. That's main the civic engagement. KNGC actually the established around that time from our founder. So you may think LA riot is what now more than 30 years, right? Story is that then we are more civilized now, and then those riots will not happen. You can think of that, but think about it what's going on in these days even too. when we happen, I would not like dealing with all the example I brought in my presentation, but just like play back a couple of years ago when the COVID-19 happened. I'm not sure about the this Nashville and Tennessee area, but at least the Los Angeles and then the New York and New York area, Korean business was kind of targeted. It was the haters, right? We got the many complaints, many the victimized cases and then delivered to congressional offices, right? So I mean, it will related with this is related with the later mission why we need to care about the U.S.-Korea relations, but whether you agree or not, we always from the outside perspective, we always kind of collective one society as a Korean American, and we have a tendency wherever we go, Korean Americans we gathered by ourselves. There's a Korean town everywhere, right? And then we go to our own church, not go to the native church, right? So we can be easily our target. So I mean, talking about the advocate Korean American community doesn't mean we need to segregate ourselves from the other ethnic group. But yeah, definitely we need to work with the Black community, we need to work with the Hispanic community, we need to work with the other Asian group, or as in general, the members of the society. But at the same time, we need to be Korean American, and we need to be ready to raise up our voice and to protect ourselves whenever something has happened to our community. If something has happened to our community, that artist community will not help us, right? Like right now, I'm not talking about that I agree with the mass deportation or not, but for example, I mean there's some cases and even the U.S. citizens they've been locked in and they interrogated for their citizenship, right? What if you go to the Korean American restaurant and then ICE agent go there and then just the see we talk about in our conversation in Korean and then the catch you and lock in. Eventually you will list if you're a U.S. citizen, and then where do you go? Where do you discuss about your complaint? What if those happen to your family? And what you can do, right? And the civic engagement, I believe amnesty we can have those secure communication too, right? If I live in the councilwoman's first district, and then if I'm friends over her, because I always show her the town hall meeting or the hearing anything, and then I had someone to ask help, right? So civic engagement is like that. I'm not talking about even change entire policy or a lot the improvement. At least we have proper channel to communicate or to explain if we have problem, even if we have a good or bad things, right? So this is the why we care about civic engagement and the U.S. Korea and the Korean American community, and later part why we need to care about the U.S. Korea relations, right? Some people says I'm U.S. citizen, right? I've been immigrant here more than 30 years, 40 years, or my kids, or the third generations, oh my parents, my great-grandparents still live here, I live here since my great-grandparents, and then I'm U.S. citizen, I don't know anything about Korea, and just enjoy the Korean food and Korean K-pop or K-drama. Why do I need to care about the U.S.-Korea relations? Does anyone know about the Japanese internment camp? No one? No? 교수님? 아무도 안 하시니까 교수님이 하셔야지. 네, 제페니스. 제가 해야 돼요? 네. After Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, right? President Roosevelt, he announced like an executive order that basically, they captured all the Japanese descent to middle of nowhere, almost 3 years, 2.5 years probably, and then there was 11 internment camp, like desert area, like Utah and Arizona, and then more than 100,000 Japanese Americans, they belonged because America considered them the people who could be like espionage to the U.S. Right? Funny thing is like 2/3 of those the Japanese descendants who belong in internment camp are second or third generation of Japanese American. Right? And then 1990s U.S. government officially apologized. But again, this could be, now it's almost 100 years ago, 80 years ago, and then this will not happen. But think about it. What happened to the Muslim bans, right? Still, how the Muslim peoples they are, oppressed by the all the policy they hear, right? And Russians, after Ukraine-Russian war, Russians are here, kind of, same. The U.S. government treated them they probably can make the espionage toward the U.S. Right? We are, our motherland is only the divided country right now because of the ideology, right? North Korea is officially our country, U.S.'s enemy country, right? Think about it. Something happened the North Korea and U.S. negatively, or even South Korea and North Korea negatively. They think consider us where we're from, south or north, or they really treat us as a just U.S. citizen. Not only for that, but also right now, U.S. they kind of rearrange international order, right? And then they ask other allies, stand beside of them, right? And what if our motherland choose, being the enemy or against the U.S.? Now that, I believe, it totally negatively affect our daily life, right? And then our younger generation, our kids too, right? There's nothing, I'm not talking about that's why, you need to support the Harris, you need to support Trump, you need to support the administration or, the lead, the candidate. I'm not talking about that. For us, sadly, we have only the option, whatever administration, executive branch is here, our hope is in those two countries, our motherland, our country, being get along well. That's our only option. That's why we need to care about the U.S.-Korea relations. No one here cannot be free the relationship with your motherland. Maybe 200 years later, it will change. But again, we are one of the shortest. We have one of the shortest immigration history in here. And then Asian group is not black, not the Hispanic group. We happen to be, people look at us and more distinguish where you're from. Right? So that's why the U.S.-Korea care about U.S.-Korea relations throughout the city engagement to support that too. And luckily, Tennessee is one of the, I believe, right now is like a really good place, to practice civic engagement. Before we came here, I researched some the numbers, and then as you see, officially in Tennessee we have 15,000 Korean Americans in states, right? That number is relatively very small number, because if you go to New Jersey or California, there is a county which have more than 50,000 Korean Americans in one county, right? But Tennessee is right now is the concert park mentioned is very, very strategically important states in terms of U.S.-Korea relations, because a lot of Korean companies starting to invest their money in here, and then since 2003 they invest about $7 billion here. That makes more than 8,000 jobs creation, and that related to those the $397 million dollars related with the automobile area. Tennessee reminds me that Korea corner in Auburn, and then people in Alabama, because the founder of Korea corner, the professor, always mentioned 30 years ago when she moved to the Alabama Auburn, there's 3 Korean Americans, and right now, after Hyundai Motors Group invested Alabama and the Georgia border area, Auburn and those parts of Alabama is right now is Korean Americans is very important area, right? The same here. With just our smallest number in here, our voice probably very small, but luckily our motherland, our motherland companies invest money here, and that I totally believe eventually will make the Korean American drive here too, because that means more Korean Americans will engage in the companies, and then where they go, Korean town, Korean community, Korean business restaurant things, and that doesn't give benefit just for the Korean American community. It gives a local community too, right? So I mean, with smallest number, but still I think this is time we can make the change in Tennessee, in Korean American community, right? So hopefully, I have the other part about the policies, what we advocate daily in the Washington D.C. But I will not spend time. But if you have time, visit the KAGC.us, our organization homepage. We provide a lot of resource, such as in Korean American voter data, and then those investment, and also the voter guide, and also what issues we advocate. So please see those the issues through our web page. But anything in terms of civic engagement, anything you need resource, right? Anything we can help, please reach out to our organization, and then we will willing to be the your resource. Even the small stuff too. Recently, what I did at the Washington D.C. is, I'm not sure somebody's familiar with that story or not, but there is a Korean American second generation lady named Victoria Lee, who lives in Foley, New Jersey. And then last summer, their family, because she has a mental problem, so their family called 911 to help, to hospitalize her. But the police, Foley is the heart of the Korean American community in New Jersey. But like police who went there overly react and then shot the gun and then she died. When she died, her mom actually, she was in control of her daughter. She was like, grabbed her daughter's hands, and then if you see those body cam, it was not really that urgent to like a situation. The policemen need to shoot those poor lady, right? And then the Foley, small, very wealthy town, because like right across the Hudson River to the New York, there, even though a lot of Korean Americans there is like they're like in the mainstream politicians, they're kind of like mafia. Even right now, they never says any formal apology. Even they don't know if that policeman was removed from the duty or not, right? All the government people in Foley, they just shut their mouths and then this is a middle of investigation. So I reached out the senior senator from New Jersey, which is Cory Booker. Cory Booker is right now ranking for Democratic Senate side, and then luckily his current Attorney General in New Jersey is used to work for the Senator Cory Booker, Senator Booker, and then there is something the movement. I hopefully it will be resolved that problem by end of this summer. But those kind of things we can do, or those kind of things, if you raise your voice in your local area, you can do, right? So, especially our student, I know you guys came here for the maybe community hours or your parents push to come here, but you can be the player, you can be the decision maker, not just a listener or follower. That's the entire message of the city engagement for this. And then I will wrap up my part here, and then my colleague June part, she will introduce more of our organization's program. That will give you more idea than how you can implement and practice civic engagement in here. In your organization or your local area, and also some of the program in our next generations in here, if they are interested in they can join our programs too. And then after she finishes the introduction of our program, I will get back, and then if you have any question, concern, then I'm willing to answer for that. Thank you.
안녕하세요. 저는 박주은 연구원이라고 합니다. 아까 말씀 주셨듯이 시민 참여가 왜 얼마나 중요한지 말씀 주셨는데 KGC에서 어떻게 풀어나가는지 그 프로그램을 설명하도록 하겠습니다. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us today. My name is June Park. I'm External Affairs Associate at KGC. Actually, a few years ago, I was just like you, sitting in the audience at the KGC conference like this. I used to be an international student, but even my major was political science, but I didn't fully understand how my community, how important my community was. Because I just focused on the surviving my school and just trying to graduate. But after I got married and moved to Alabama, I got a chance to attend the KGC conference in Alabama. And it completely opened my eyes. I thought, wow, this is just what we need. If I'm going to live in States forever, become an immigrant, I should do something. I do something for my community. So that moment changed everything. So I started as a volunteer with the KGC and work part-time eventually moved to DC to work full time. So now I stand here today speaking to you. It's really amazing. Earlier, our executive director, Mr. Song, talked about the importance of civic engagement. Now I would like to show you KGC is turning to that idea into real actual action through our program. So first, let me introduce KGC Youth Leadership Summit. Can you go back to page? Yeah, thank you so much. This is a 3-day program in Washington DC in January. It's open to all college students, no matter your major and no matter your political experience. Each year, around 50 students from across the country come to DC. They visit the office of their own member of Congress, talk about the issue and recommendation in Korean American community. Last year, we visited the 16 office, 8 in the Senate and 9 in the House. So let me give you just examples. Do you know, anyone know the adoptive respect? Okay. Okay, I'll explain recently. So, sometime back in the day, you remember the adoptees came from the Korea, many members, right? But some of them, they're not getting a citizenship because of their maybe their parents abused them, or they kind of misunderstood the process of immigration. So 2000 years, Congress kind of passed a bill for the adoptee, and some of them get a green card and citizenship from that process, but actually that bill kind of have a loophole because of the age. So before after the 18 at the 2000 year, they cannot get a citizenship. So even they live the whole life in the United States, but they didn't get adopted citizenship. It's really unbelievable and really sad story. So during our one of the past Capitol Hill visit, a student who's Korean adoptee obviously from the Korea, but he kind of spoke their representative about this adoptive citizenship act. So they shared their own story and explained why this adoptive citizenship act is so important. So after the meeting, the representatives decided to co-sponsor the bill. So the student kind of one more step, they kind of change a little bit of step, and it's kind of show of how important civic engagement. They kind of show the civic engagement through this program. So I think this annual leadership summit and visiting Capitol Hill and show our power is really important, and we can make the little of a change. Also, students attend various panel discussions to learn what kind of work are done in government and what it's like to be a Korean American working in the public sector. Can you please the next picture? Thank you so much. And they also attend the Korean American Day reception as well. The next page, please. Thank you. So this year, 6 members of Congress joined us to speak with the students about the importance of Korean American community in the U.S. to Korean relationship. And here is a very important point. We cover, if any student wants to apply our leadership summit and if they selected, we cover the cost of airfare and the lodging. So it's really amazing opportunity and benefit. So if you know someone who might be interested, please encourage them to apply. They will have amazing experience. The next summit will be held in January 2026, and the application will open this November. So if you follow our Instagram, you will get the most up-to-date information and reminder. And next, I would like to introduce the Congressional Fellowship Program. Since 2017, KGC has placed 51 students in the office of 28 members of Congress. This summer, 10 new fellows will join the program, including placement with our current Korean American member of Congress, the first Korean American Senator Andy Kim, a California Representative Young Kim, and Washington Representative Malik Strickland, and another California Representative Dave Min, who was elected last election. So, and this is more than just a fellowship or internship. Fellows receive the policy training and mentorship and networking opportunity, including special reception and event with the Korean American professional in DC. Through this experience, they build a strong pipeline into public career sector and public service career. And I think this is really amazing part to share. Today, there are around 80 Korean American staffers working in the Hill. So they are part of a group called CKASA, the Congressional Korean American Staffer Association. And more amazing part, many of CKASA's leaders begin their journey in Hill through K-agency. So they were either our previous fellow or participant in our last leadership summit or congressional fellowship program. So those former fellows continue to stay involved, and they return to our event and mentor new students and work with the support with the Korean American community. 80 Korean American staff in Congress is really amazing. Next page, thank you. And next is the voter registration challenge. We've worked with the Korean American student group like KASA and KSA to register over 2,000 new voters. We support the school to set up the table for the voter registration and get a prize to school that register the most students. Through this program, students learn the value of civic engagement and help increase the voter turnout. Next, please. And now, if you're interested in the experience of civic engagement in DC, KGC can help set up the meeting with your member of Congress. So when community members speak directly to their representative, it shows really civic participation, and congressional office take those meetings really seriously. Also, we will happy to help arrange a Capitol Hill tour and meeting with the public sector professionally. Please don't hesitate to contact us. We are here to support your civic engagement journey. Also, this is a high school research internship. We also offer the research internship for high school students. It's fully remote and very flexible. Students can set their own schedule. And high school interns support the legislative research, and such as our police priority and publication. And also they have a good benefit. If they complete the 100 hours, they may qualify for the President Volunteer Service Award. The next application will open in the fall 2025. And again, if you follow our Instagram, you will get the reminder on time, and I have a QR code at the end of the presentation, so you can follow it. And we have published important publication. KGC also publishes important resource each year. First of all, Korean American Police Priority, which outline key issues for our community, including immigration and small business support and voting rights. Second, we provide the Korean American population data. Maybe next page, and the next page is the legislative development analysis. Yeah, great, thank you. This legislative development analysis is a review over 150 bills from the Congress that impact Korean American life. And we also rank the member of Congress who are most legislatively active in supporting our community each section. Maybe, yeah, we can link the Senate side, and next page is the House side. And all those resources you can check our KGC homepage. And finally, the election guide. Maybe next page. The the election guide gives you a step-by-step voting system. So in both English and Korean. It's such as like how to register the vote, and vote by mail, and case you about it. And KD is empowering our community to engage civic life and building the pipeline for the next generation of Korean leaders. I hope this session help you get a better understanding of the KGC and what we are doing to support our community. If you would like to learn more, please visit kgc.us or follow us our Instagram. And after the session, Mr. Sung and I are really here, so feel free to come to us, and if you have any question or any like research question or internship question, we will be here. Thank you so much for listening.
I think we are allowed to participate by like a full 20. And we have like about 10 minutes. And if you have any questions so far, if not, if you're too shy too about the public announcement, as June says, like we'll be here for a while after the event. You can like personally come to us and visit us, ask your questions. Any questions?
인게이지먼트니까 인게이지먼트 해주시면 감사하겠습니다. 마이크 대기하고 있습니다. 10분 남아있습니다. 네. 제가 질문 드려도 될까요? 아까 제가 일본 관련해가지고 말씀 못 드려가지고 여기 그 하이스쿨 학생들도 있잖아요. 그죠? 그리고 지금 리더십 지금 기회가 있다고 들었는데 구체적으로 어떤 기회인지에 대해서 조금 궁금하지 않나요? 대학 갈 때 도움 될 것 같지 않나요? 저기 마이크 드릴게요. 지금 저도 아까 얘기했어요. 이게 이건 하셔야 되니까 질문 없으시면은 네 알겠습니다.
제가 한마디 할까요?
저는 궁금한 게 아이들이 이미 자리 잡으셨던 분의 세컨드, 서드 제너레이션도 있고 그 다음에 부모님들 그 job opportunity 때문에 여기 오셔서 코리안 코리안이었다가 아메리칸 코리안이 됐었을 경우에 아이들이 두 번 약간 정체성의 위기가 오잖아요. 근데 저는 궁금한 게 그래도 부모 그늘 안에 있을 때는 한국 음식을 그래도 먹고 그 다음에 부모의 한국말을 듣고 자랐던 아이들이 대학을 가면서부터는 아메리칸 그 커뮤니티 안에 들어가면 저는 궁금한 게 그 친구들이 뭐 대학교에서 단순히 한국인 학생, 그 한인 학생의 그룹이 아니라 그 소속감을 어느 쪽에 느끼는지랑 그리고 그나마 학교는 한인 학생회가 있지만 job opportunity를 잡을 가지고 또 들어가면 더 이렇게 코리안 커뮤니티랑 멀어지지는 않을까, 어떻게 유지를 하는지. 그리고 그 질문 하나랑 특히나 뭐 DC나 이런 대도시에 보면 전문성을 가진 그 직업을 가진 코리안 아메리칸들이 굉장히 많을 텐데 그 분들은 어떻게 또 코리안 커뮤니티랑 또 연계를 하는지 아니면 그냥 아이솔레이티드 돼서 따로 떨어져서 지내는지, 그러니까 부모로서 그런 부분들이 걱정이 되기도 하거든요. 그러니까 좀 어떤지 경향을 알고 싶습니다.
이거는 한국말로 대답을 해줘야 되겠죠? 그 부모님들 생각을 하시니까 So sorry about this, Joseph. Like this is about the Korean American identity, how to like the young generation keep the Korean American identity. Then I will answer in Korean. Okay. If you're curious about I promise you, I will explain in English. 저희 와이프가 2살, 3살 때 이민 아까도 잠깐 말씀드렸지만 나는 한국말도 어느 정도 하고 한국 음식도 좋아하고 그래서 한국 여자랑 결혼한 줄 알았는데 요즘에 계속 백인 여자랑 결혼했다 생각하고 있거든요. 그래서 맨날 아주 cultural difference가 많아서 고생하는데 저희 와이프는 제 제너레이션의 코리안 아메리칸들이고 지금 주셨던 질문이 지금 저나 저보다 선배님들 제너레이션의 코리안 아메리칸들이랑 지금 제너레이션의 코리안 아메리칸들이랑 많이 다른 것 같아요. 저보다 제 제너레이션은 저보다 많이 나이가 더 있으신 세컨드 제너레이션 1.5 제너레이션들은 우리가 흔히 말하는 20 바나나가 될 수밖에 없었어요. 처음에 제가 이 일을 시작할 때 왜 이 세대들이 저렇게 selfish하지? 왜 커뮤니티를 절대 생각을 안 하지? 이렇게 되게 많이 오해를 했었는데 우리 알프를 만나기도 하고 점점 일을 하다 보니까는 for them surviving 문제였어요. 자기가 Korean American 아이덴티티를 내세울 수가 없었던 거예요. 그 흔히들 들어보셨던 런치박스 모먼트라는 거, 엄마가 도시락 싸주면 그거 열면은 그것 때문에 놀림당하고. 근데 지금 제너레이션은 조금 많이 다른 것 같아요. 지금 제너레이션도 제가 알기로는 제가 경험한 것도 그렇고 유학생들이랑 여기서 자란 친구들이랑의 갭은 있어요. 아직도. 근데 그것도 좀 많이 없어져 가고 있는 중인데 왜냐면 유학생들이 줄어들고 있기 때문에. 근데 지금 제너레이션들은 저희가 준일 씨가 지금 우리가 넥스트 제너레이션 포커스에서 항상 이것들 많이 하다 보니까는 대학생 프로그램들이나 영 제너레이션 프로그램들을 더 많이 이야기를 했는데 저희 이제 어른들 프로그램 딱 저렇게 있는데 대학생 프로그램들이 저렇게 많이 있는 이유가 고등학생 프로그램이 이게 있는 이유가 제가 이 일 처음 시작하고 벌써 한 12년, 13년, 14년 이렇게 됐는데 저가 하이스쿨 그 인턴을 하는 친구가 여러 명 또 와가지고 여기서 태어난 친구인데 저한테 그러면 한국말을 떠듬떠듬 하는 거예요. 그래서 내가 괜찮아, you can speak in English, I can speak both languages. 걔가 나와서 그러더라고요. 아니에요, 나 한국 사람인데 한국말 해야죠. 그게 저한테는 사실 아이즈 오프닝 모먼트였거든요. 그러니까 한 10년 전부터 K-pop, K-드라마, K-푸드 이런 것들이 점점 파퓰러해졌잖아요. 그러니까 지금 제너레이션들은 사실 어떻게 보면은 compared with my wife generation 되게 럭키한 제너레이션이 된 거예요. 자기의 아이덴티티를 숨길 필요가 없어진 거죠. 그러니까 모르겠어요. 테네시는 아직 에이션들이 많지 않다 보니까 그런데 한 중소도시 정도만 봐도 요즘에는 코리안 드라마 넷플릭스에서 계속 나오고 이러니까는 되게 예전에 우리 옛날에 생각했을 때 일본 문화라든지 홍콩 문화라든지 이런 것들이 되게 트렌드했던 것처럼 진짜로 지금 인제너럴 아메리칸 소사이어티에서 커뮤니티에서 코리안이 되게 좀 파퓰러한 게 있어요. 우리끼리도 그냥 농담으로도 어차피 나는 대기면 될 수 없어. 나 아시안이야? 그러면은 아까 말했듯이 어떤 아시안들도 어느 나라에서 왔는지 잘 볼 수는 없거든요. 요즘에는 한국에서 온 게 쿨해요. 그러니까는 아이들이 자기가 코리안이라고 이야기하는 거에 자기가 코리안이라고 이야기하는 거를 예전보다 두려워하지 않고요. 그리고 오히려 반대로 저희 와이프한테도 들었고 그런데 대학을 가면은 오히려 좀 대도시권에 있는 대학들을 큰 도시에 있는 대학들을 가게 되면은 학교 다닐 때는 백인들 친구들밖에 없었는데 학교에 가면은 에이시안들이 있잖아요. 이상하게 에이시안들이랑 더 가까워지네요. 그러면서 자기 아이덴티티를 오히려 중고등학교 때 그 코리안들이 없고 에이시안들이 없어서 자기 못 찾았던 아이덴티티를 대학 때 찾는 경우들이 많고요. 그 메인스트림에서도 예전에는 살아남으려면 백인인 척 했었어요. 말 잘 듣는 백인들 말 잘 듣는. 근데 지금 DC에서 봐도 그렇고 Korean American 아이덴티티를 가지고도 하는 분들이 더 많아요. 그리고 아까 제가 US-Korea Relations가 왜 중요하다고 이 말씀을 드렸냐면은 요즘에는 어떤 섹터든 간에 미국에서 진짜 레어한 케이스, 진짜 백인처럼 자기가 생각하고 살지 않는 친구들 말고는 제가 봤을 때 탑 랭크에 있는 여기서 메인스트림 있는 분들이에요. 이분들이 결국은 다 US-Korea 관련된 일들을 하세요. US 그 스테이트 디파트먼트 아시죠? 국무부에서 제일 많이 언급됐고 최근까지 제일 유명했던 Korean American 디플로맷이 성킴 대사였어요. 한국 대사로 하셨고 성킴 대사님이 지금 무슨 일 하시는지 아실까요? 현대모러스 그룹의 전체 전 세계의 거먼트 리레이션스 하는 헤드를 하셨어요. 심지어 그 옛날에 우리 한국 대사를 했다가 뭐 피습당했던 마크 펄트 대사 미국도 최근까지 DC에 있는 삼성 오피스의 가운트 릴레이션스 프레젠트를 하셨거든요. 그래서 저희가 이 일을 하는 이유는 그리고 왜 Korean Americans civic engagement하고 아이덴티티를 포커스하는 거는 제가 봤을 때는 여기서 성공하려면은 Korean American 아이덴티티를 더 가져야지 더 성공할 수 있다고 생각을 하고요. 그리고 테네시는 어떤지 모르겠지만 랭귀지 교육도 너무 잘 돼 있어요. 요즘에. 그 문화원이라든지 교육원에서 한국 교육원에서 많이 서포트를 해줘서 큰 도시 같은 경우에는 저희 아이가 버지니아인데 저희 아이가 다니는 주말 한국학교는 한국학교 정원이 한 300명이에요. 그리고 뭐 샌프란시스코, 뉴욕 이런 데 600명, 700명 되는 데도 있다고 그랬거든요. 그러니까 저는 예전보다는 확실히 그래도 마이너리티니까 힘들겠는데 예전보다는 학생의 아이덴티티에 대해서 고민할 필요는 없다고 생각을 해요. 근데 이게 너는 한국 사람이니까 한국말을 해야 돼라는 것보다는 이 학생의 오퍼튜니티를 나의 자식의 오퍼튜니티를 위해서 부모가 culturally language 조금 preparation 시켜주는 거는 필요하다고 생각해요. 그것만 되면은 지금의 환경은 본인이 알아서 자기 아이덴티티를 찾아갈 수 있게 되고요. 아까 인턴십을 저희가 하는 것도 80명 Korean American 스태퍼들인데 그 중에 15명이 저희 출신이거든요. 그게 왜 이걸 하게 됐냐면은 제가 DC 가서 일을 해보니까 대만계들은 대만계들대로 자기네들이 끌어줘요. 중국계들은 중국대로 끌어주고 그렇게 돼 있어요. 여기 세상이. 우리도
우리끼리.
이전에는 애들이 운 좋아서 자기 백인 멘토를 잘 만나서 흑인 멘토를 잘 만나서 가거나 아니면 에이시안 전체 그룹에 끼워가지고 이렇게 하다가도 우리도 우리 애들 파트웨이를 만들어줘야 되겠다고 생각을 했거든요. 그러니까 만들어주니까 아이들이 잘 해내고 있는 거고 실제로 컨그레스 멤버들도 지금 많이 있잖아요. 그래서 저는 애가 이게 이렇게 되면 어떻게 힘들지보다는 그거보다는 우리가 우리 아이덴티티에 좀 더 확신을 가지고 그 자녀들을 조금 더 준비시켜 주는 게 더 중요하지 않을까 생각합니다. 그럼 저는 일단 물러가도록 하고요. 이분 오가겠습니다.
그리고 나중에 식사할 때 또 계실 거죠?
네네.
그때는 질문만 하면 되니까요. 네모의 남편은 나중에 질문해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 다음 순서 넘어가겠습니다.
Thank you, Mr. Song and Ms. Park. Now, let's welcome Terry Vo, Council Member of Nashville District 17.
시의원으로 계시는 테리버님께서 오셨습니다. 오늘 말씀해 주실 내용 굉장히 궁금한데 경청해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, 감사합니다. My name is Terry Vo, and I'm very honored to be here today. And I am the District 17 Council member. We're just going to go through my slides real fast. I think we already finished it. So today I'm really excited to talk about civic power, civic pride, and what that looks like, right? And why it's important to get involved at the local level. And so, as you see here, I'm the District 17 Council member, and what that means here in Nashville, I represent a little over 20,000 constituents. I'm the first Vietnamese American ever elected to the Metro Council, and I serve. And what's really important is I am the founding chair of the Immigrant Caucus, and I think this is really important because Nashville, since its inception, has had immigrants. But for many, many, many decades, we've had zero representation in caucus form to have a voice for our community. So I'm very proud to be the chair of the Immigrant Caucus, and I also serve as the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Vice Chair. So that's a very long name, so we shorten it to Apple. And this next slide has lots of words. But really, I just want to explain that the Metro Council, you're probably wondering, why is Nashville called the metropolitan government of Nashville and Davidson County? It is because we formed this third, I would say, form of government. We are the first city, county that created that because it was not a takeover, right? You'll see other iterations where maybe the city took over the county or the county took over the city, but this was actually a joint decision together that they formed this third government. So we are the first to create the metropolitan government that city and county has, and we have about 12 other people across the nation, cities and counties that have followed in our footsteps. And I wanted to show you what the council looks like. And the Metropolitan Council, we are led by our Vice Mayor, Angie Henderson. And the council is made up of 40 council members. We are the 3rd largest council in the nation. And so we have 35 district council members. I'm one of the 35. And then we have 5 at-large council members. So just breaking that down, the district council members have a specific area in which they represent, and an at-large council member represents the entire county. And a huge difference in our roles, if there is a rezoning that happens in my district, I am in charge of that. And really the council members at large, they could, right? But they typically do not do that. And the vice mayor gets to choose our committees during our term. So you'll see here, these are the 8 that she has put together. Sometimes they change, sometimes they combine them. And then you can also have ad hoc committees that are created. So I currently also serve on the ad hoc East Bank committee. So that's where the new Titan Stadium is going, the new neighborhood. And because in renderings, there was a bridge that went from my district to the East Bank, they wanted to ensure that people who were surrounding that, if they wanted to serve on the committee, to also have a voice. So very happy to serve there. Yes, and then I just want to show you all the council districts so you can see I'm very close to the middle. So I'm just south of downtown. And one thing I encourage if you don't know where who your representative is, this is very helpful. So I want you to know that every 10 years we have a U.S. Census, and Metro Nashville then will redistrict the boundaries of our districts. So that's why, for me, when I first moved to Nashville, I lived in Berry Hill. So it's been historically in District 17. But because of the various growth around the county, in this new redistricting and reestablished lines, Berry Hill, where I used to live, is no longer counted as District 17. It's moved over to District 26. So what's really great is that you can find out who your council person is. You can go to our Metro website, which I'll show you in a second, and look up, put in your address where you live, and it'll show you who your representative is. So one thing that's really important, I so appreciate KIGC talking about civic engagement because it is so critical. And I think an important part is how do you find out about what your local elected officials are working on, what legislation are they trying to bring forth, when do we have our meetings, our agendas. It is all public. We represent you all in the community. So you can go here to Nashville Legistar, and on this website it will show you all the legislation that has passed in our city. You can see all of our meetings, the agendas, the minutes. These are all public and you all can find access to them. And also if you go to Nashville Legistar, you can find out your council members' contact information. You can find out what they serve on. You can find out their email and phone number. And so I put the website for you at the bottom. It's just nashville.legistar.com. It is a very, very useful tool, and it even provides analysis. So if you have a hard time understanding what does this actually mean, what does this bill, how is it going to affect me, or will it affect me? We have a council office who does an analysis to help answer those questions. And if you still don't, it's okay. You can email me, or you can email your council representative. Another thing that I think is really great that we have in Nashville is called Hub Nashville. So this really allows you to connect and help us solve problems in our city quicker. And so Hub Nashville is a variety of things. So for example, has anyone ever had their trash not picked up at their house? A missed trash pickup. That's happened, right? So you're probably like, well, how can I fix that? One thing that's really great, you can go to Hub Nashville, and there will be in the search you can put missed, trash pickup. And once you log that, it'll go to the right department, and they're able to quickly address that. And this is really important because sometimes going through the system, in all good cases, is faster than calling me, telling me, and then, I could be in meetings that day, and then we've missed it. But if you go immediately and put it through Hub, it can be done faster. And so we're trying to encourage and educate our community members that there are tools that can really empower you to get, to have the city work for you. And another thing too, like if you see property violations, if you see, that a neighbor, their grass is really high, they've not cut it, there's no home, there and nobody lives there, you can also report that, and then it goes straight to the codes department where then they can send out a letter to that individual. So you don't need to look up who that is, you can just go through Hub. And it has so many, I would say, it will solve many problems, but sometimes, like all systems, it doesn't work, or someone's not replying back, or you see a problem that hasn't been resolved. Once you submit it, you'll get a number, and I always ask my constituents, please send me that number. I can follow up with that department directly so that we can solve your problem. And one thing I really love is you can do it two ways. You can call 311 if you live in Davidson County and have a 615 number, but if you don't, you have a 479, you have another area code phone number, you can call the 615-862, and my eyes are close, 5,000, I want to make sure I'm telling you right, and someone will answer the phone and help you, and then of course you can report it on the app, or you can go to hub.nashville.gov. And so I really encourage you, these are tools that you can have and really see your, I would say your taxpayer dollars working, because this system we're really trying to improve within all of our departments so that they all are using the same system. And then another thing that I think is really important is boards and commissions. So you have your local representative, but I want you all to know that you have skills, you have experiences that are really important, and that we can, use your skill set to serve on a board and commission. We have over 75 different commissions, and they're all volunteer boards, and these are great ways to shape how your city and how your city addresses problems, how your city is going to move forward, how your city invests. And I know, Pratik here, he has served on the Human Relations Commission. I'm really proud Joseph was appointed by the mayor to serve on the Choose How You Move Transportation Committee. And these are really critical roles. And, to have our Asia Pacific Islander leaders being acknowledged, being recognized, I want you all to know that you too can also do that. If you're interested in a specific board or you're curious about it, you are welcome to attend these meetings. They are public and you can make comments, and if you are a little timid or you have questions, you can always ask me. There are openings, and what happens on the council is, depending on the board and commission, some are appointed by the mayor and then some are appointed by the Metro Council, and then it's a mix. So all of that just depends on what was written, for that particular board and commission. But people are always serving, various terms, and those can be anywhere from, I would say, like 2 to 6 years, depending which one it is. And then after that, you can look at renewing. But I really encourage you all to look at that, because it's a really great way to give back and also really shape like how Nashville will look like and how we run as a city in the future. And I wanted just to make sure that you all knew our Nashville, our Metro website, Nashville.gov, is going to take you to all the things. Could we have a better website? Yes, I will say that. I think it can be better. But you can find out, you can go to the council office website. You'll be able to look up all types of events, and find out what your district is doing, what's going on around the city. There are quick links, and it is full of, full of information and resources. And I would just say, just take your time to navigate it. And this is the homepage right here on top. And then you'll see the picture of Mayor O'Connell, and then you'll see the picture of Vice Mayor Angie Henderson. And I'm saying this, so if you click on Vice Mayor Henderson's image, it will take you straight to the Metro Council page. So you don't have to search that, that'll take you there as a shortcut. And our council meetings, we meet on the first and third Tuesday of every month. So here in Tennessee, the state legislature, they only meet for a few months, typically, the first quarter. And so it's very different on the Metro Council and at the local level. We meet every first and third Tuesday. Sometimes, right, we'll have an election on a Tuesday, and if we do that, we already have it written in our bylaws that then we will meet like the following Thursday. So we address for all of that. And we have announcements and presentations. And so that begins at 6 o'clock. And so, for example, if me or one of my colleagues, we have passed a resolution and we want the community to come and we want to present it and we want to share about this special presentation, we can do that then from 6 to 6:30. And then any council member who has an announcement about things going on in Nashville can share it then. And then our council meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. And that can last anywhere from, I would say, 3 hours to 12 hours. We never know the ending of our meeting. And so one thing I do want to share with you all too is, there's public comment, and that means during that time, every meeting that we have, if there is something that is important to you or something is going on and you want to share that with the council, you are able to come. The sign up is first come, first serve, and you can share about what is important to you. And I really think that it's so important since whenever I was elected, it was really my goal to uplift and shed light on the entire, Asian Pacific Islander diaspora, right? And I was really proud. I know they shared in their slides, that Korean American Day is very important. And before I was elected, it was never recognized in our city, and I was really proud to be able to do that and proclaim Korean American Day here in Nashville. You'll see that we had an entire event, and the mayor came. Councilmember Bob Nash, the event was held in his district, and the vice mayor came. And so I think that's really important because I want you all to know that the Korean community is very important here in Nashville and Middle Tennessee. And, your concerns are my concerns. And, that means that it's the Metro Council's concerns. And so I want you all to know when there is something very special that is happening, you can reach out to me. I work on legislation, I work on proclamations. So please know, my colleague, for example, someone turned 100 years old in her district. So, they wanted to do a proclamation for that community member. And I know we have a lot of business owners, we have a lot of entrepreneurs. And so please know that your successes and, your longevity in this community is important. And I think that that's something, I really want to make sure during my time, we are really shining light on that, and that you all see yourselves, as part of our community, and that you are an important part of our community. Great. And I just want to make sure that you all know that 2025, it is a property assessment year. You all have probably received a letter about your property value in the mail. And I want you to be aware, if you feel that the value of your home is incorrect, you have the opportunity for an informal review where they will go over everything. And so I just wanted you all to know that you can do it by phone, or you can email the property assessor's office. And that, the appeals process begins May 12th. And the last day, the deadline is June, I want to say 27th. And it's at 4 p.m. and that is a hard deadline. So please, if you own property or community members that do, make sure they're aware that when they have their letter, if they have questions or they do not think that it reflects properly, they can get it, there is an appeal process. And that's something I really want to address and make sure people know that you don't just have to accept, if it's something you don't agree with. Great. And last thing, of course, I wanted you all to know, when I talk about these things, it's like, what do you mean and what does it really mean in Nashville to get involved? And so, I know that attending a council meeting, I would say very exciting at the front end, lots of things happening. And, if you want to have that experience, please do that. And you can, of course, speak during public comment. I think that something lesser known is we have committee meetings. So the 8 committees I talked about earlier, we meet on Monday and Tuesdays. And you can attend those. figure out, if you are really curious about budget and finance, we are about to enter budget season here in Nashville. So the mayor just announced his proposed budget. And here in Nashville, the mayor will set a proposed budget. And then the Metro Council must either make amendments and make changes to the budget, but it has to be agreed upon by the entire Metro Council. And if the Metro Council cannot agree, then the mayor's budget will automatically go through at the end of June. And so it's really important because we want the voice of the people to be able to make changes and to get involved. Of course, I'd love for you to attend our Immigrant Caucus meetings, things that we've been able to really have some really great strides. Language access is really a priority for us. And last year, it was very fortunate. There was a drowning at Percy Priest Lake, and I worked with the Army Corps of Engineers to actually get multiple languages put up so that all visitors in that area, will be more educated that the water is dangerous if you're not a strong swimmer. And it's little wins like that that make a huge difference in our community. And that was because the Immigrant Caucus advocated for it, followed up with it. You can always write your council member or call them. Like we talked about earlier, you can serve on the board and commission. And I think one thing too is you can also share what the Korean American community wants to see in Nashville. And I think that's really important. That you can take an active role in being vocal. And for example, the Korean adoptee and sharing about their experience made a difference. And I think that that's what's really important. And right now, the Unified Housing Strategy, we are about to have a whole community engagement session with meetings throughout the district. And it's talking about what the future of housing and what that strategy looks like here in Nashville. We want to make sure if you're interested in that or you have questions, for you to participate in that. And of course, last but definitely not least, I encourage you that if you're interested, you too can run for office. I think that's really, really important because your voice matters and what you want to do matters. And I think that we need, more examples of what an elected official looks like. And, to me, I'm a single, woman, and I think that's really important. I am not married, I don't have kids, and I think that my voice is just as important. I think we have to say that because oftentimes people have a preconceived notion of what an elected official should be and what they need to accomplish before they can run for office. And I really believe that, here in Nashville, you need to be 25 years old, live in your district at least a year, and maybe and then of course a few other rules. But if you qualified for that, then you are qualified to run. And I think that we need people who care about making our city a place that is equitable, inclusive, and a place that anyone can prosper. And I think that's really important, and I am proud to serve with fellow council members who do have that thought. And a few, I think, demographics I do want to break down real quick before I end is our council, for the first time in Nashville history, is female majority. We have 22 women that were elected and 18 men. Yeah, that's totally worth clapping for. 25% of our council is in their 30s. That's really amazing. Every young person here, I want you to see yourself that there are people that are, I think the youngest person that was elected was 25, not in this term, but the previous term. Councilmember Sandra Sepulveda was 25 years old when she started door knocking and becoming the first Latina to be elected on the Metro Council. And now she is President Pro Tem. That means she is right under the Vice Mayor. Anything happens to the Vice Mayor, she becomes the acting Vice Mayor. And she is a great leader, and I think that I want you all to see those inspirations and those examples. The Minority Caucus has grown. We are 13 members strong. We have an LGBT caucus that actually has a representative from the LGBT, which is really important. Our Veteran Caucus is also active. We have people who are veterans, and our council is, like age 30 to 72. Like that is the representative wide range, and I think that's really important. And so I hope that gives you all some hope. And we can go to the next slide if you want. Thank you. I think I've left a few minutes if y'all have any questions for me.
I have one question. Thank you for visiting this place. And I know that engagement is so important, right? So for young generations, I wonder if we have an Instagram account.
Oh, yes, I do. If we go to the next slide, you can stay connected with me. I have a newsletter and I put it out monthly. It's actually really good this month, so you should check it out. You can follow me on Instagram at Terry Vo for Nashville. And you can also, of course, my phone number and my email. You can keep these if you need to reach out to me, you have any questions. Please call 615-854-8517, and my email is terry.vo@nashville.gov.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
So, no questions? Okay, 감사합니다. One question. Okay. First. Okay, from this end. Yeah.
So my question is more personal, or when we're talking about why the civic engagement opportunity here, right? So what makes you run for the make decision run for office? Because from my perspective, kind of the ultimate version of a civic engagement, becoming elected officials, right?
Yeah.
So if you share that motivation, it will be wonderful,
Sure, I'm happy to. Full disclosure, when I was in high school, I was the junior class president, I was senior class president, and for many years, people are always like, Terry, when are you gonna run for office? When are you gonna run for office? And I will tell you, when I was younger, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna finish college, I'm gonna get a really good job, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have kids, and then I can run for office. And then I realized that was actually a very, for me, toxic mentality to have, because I didn't need to do any of those things, to run for office. What I needed to do was to serve my people, was to have a heart for improving where I live, and to be a part of the decision making. And you mentioned it earlier, not just be a follower, not just go along with everything and pay my taxes and work and carry on. I think running for office gives you the ability to make change that is very tangible, especially at the local level. And so I think you have to be strategic. You have to think how does that happen though, right? And so for me, I thought about it this entire cycle before. I talked to other elected officials. I asked them, how much money does it cost to run? What does it look like? What is it gonna take? And then after that, what I did was I went through Emerge Tennessee. It is an organization that helps women run for office. And also, if you're just curious about how to run a campaign, if you're curious, you don't have to be the person. But that was so critical and very important because it gave me tools. And then I wanted to go through a leadership program that helped me as I identified as an Asian person. So in Washington, D.C., the APACS, so the Asian Pacific Institute of Congressional Studies, they have a national leadership program. So I went through NLA, and it was really fantastic because I met other Asian individuals who, one, were already elected, interested like me, or were currently running while they were in the program with me. And it's been very exciting to see other people across the nation, heed the call that yes, I need to run. And when we look even at Nashville, excuse me, the API population is about 4%, right? So for me, we need at least to have 4%, representation, and we want a democracy, and we want a city that reflects us. And in Nashville, it was zero representation, zero. For over 50 years, we had no one representing or advocating for us. And then Mina Johnson ran in 2015. And she won, and she served one term. And then after that, she didn't run again. So then we had one term of representation and then nothing. And so, for me, it was a combination of that and then my seat in District 17, the council person was termed out. So they had already served 8 years. And, I was like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it now. And, I'm so grateful I did. It was a lot of work, a lot of stress. But it's so worth it because coming here to get to speak to you all and, having an impact in our community and really getting to educate like my colleagues, other leaders in our government, our mayor. His first international trip was to an Asian country. His first trip as a mayor was to Japan. Kamakura is a sister city with Nashville. We've been sister cities for over 10 years, and that's why we went over there. And, those, experiences are very important, and then when we have different things, or we're looking at policy, I'm able to really bring in and share about the leaders that we have and what we're doing, and to really showcase that, the Asian Pacific Islander diaspora is strong. We have a voice and we do care about issues and that we deserve and will be listened to. And and I'm really glad that I ran.
Thank you, Councilmember Terry Vo.
네, 감사합니다.
Please welcome Scarlett Park from Hillsong Academic High School.
예, 다음 주 특별한 순서인데요. 이제 차세 리더들의 특별한 발표를 들어보는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 누가 알겠습니까? 이 중에 좀 저희 학생들이 나중에 CEO가 될지 또 모르지 않습니까? 자, 한번 발표를 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. Hello, my name is Scarlett Park, and I'm a junior at Hillsong High School, and I'm honored to be speaking with you. Hi.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So again, hello, my name is Scarlett Park, and I'm a junior at Hillsong High School, and I'm honored to be speaking with you tonight and sharing my story of being Korean American. So my journey as a Korean American has been faced by both challenges and accomplishments. I've never struggled with knowing that being Korean was part of my identity. But one of the biggest personal struggles I've had was learning how to embrace it, my Korean heritage, which was something that didn't come natural to me when I was younger. So growing up, I primarily spoke English, especially at school. Even though my parents spoke Korean at home and only knew how to speak in Korean, I never made a real effort into learning it, and I didn't think I needed it. And I remember in elementary school, my parents would pick me up from school and ask about my day in Korean, and I just respond with, "It was good," or "좋았어," and nothing more. It wasn't because I didn't want to talk to them. It was more like I didn't know how to respond back in Korean. But as I got older, that language barrier became more frustrating. My parents and siblings would have full conversations in Korean, and I could only understand only parts of them. My siblings would tease me, saying I wasn't fully Korean if I didn't know the language, and that teasing stuck with me and pushed me to start learning. However, it is thanks to my siblings that I started learning the Korean alphabet. At first, learning Korean was really tough. It felt embarrassing to struggle with something that other Korean kids could do so naturally. Whenever my mom corrected my grammar, I'd get frustrated, not at her, but at myself, and I felt ashamed. But when my mom noticed that, she told me a single sentence that left a really big impact on me. She said, "You should never feel ashamed for trying to improve." And after I heard that, I started to learn how to let go of the shame and lean into the learning process. And that was my first real step in embracing my heritage. Part of embracing my culture also meant rethinking some of the stigmas I had from when I was younger. For example, whenever people asked me if I liked K-pop, I said I hated it, which was funny because at that time I never even listened to it. I only said that to distance myself from it because I was tired of people assuming I just liked it just because of my ethnicity. However, when I finally gave it a chance, I started to enjoy it, and actually K-pop helped me practice my Korean by giving me a fun way to read lyrics and memorize words to catch a tune. My faith also helped me find a deeper connection to my culture. Growing up in a Christian household, I began reading the Bible in Korean and singing Korean hymns. It was especially meaningful to me because my dad was a pastor and we could connect on a new spiritual level. Along the way, I got to meet some Korean American pastor kids, and these friendships helped me better appreciate and understand my cultural background. Furthermore, to strengthen my Korean skills, I also began attending Korean school 2 years ago, and I am excited and honored to say that today was my graduation. Now that I'm older, I believe one of the greatest accomplishments in my life so far has been learning to communicate with my parents in their native language and embracing the culture they gave me. Experiencing two different cultures has given me a broad perspective and taught me how to respect both. Although I am still learning and growing, I can say that I'm deeply proud of being Korean American, and I would never want to be trading it for anything else. I hope that fully embracing my culture sets an example to other Korean Americans who struggle, and I hope I can be a positive influence and an empowered representation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scarlett. Now we welcome Mr. Joseph Gutierrez, Executive Director of API.
예, 다음은 API Asian and Pacific Islander 기관의 이제 파운딩 멤버이신 조셉 구티에스 쪽 이사님을 무대로 모시겠습니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 조셉 구티에스입니다. 옛날에 한국에서 살았어요. 2009년부터 14까지 영어로 가르쳤어요. 그때 열심히 공부했지만 지금 한국말 안 봐요. 미안합니다. 영어로 할게요. So if we can go to the next slide. So API Militancy, we're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is working towards racial justice by building community, lifting voices, and celebrating identities across the volunteer state. We can move on. And so we got started in 2019. A lot of it through community conversations that I was having. One of my first meetings was actually at Hyundai, Korean restaurant, where just somebody was wanting to talk about Korean Americans and they joined our board when we got started in 2020. And since then, so we've been expanding a lot of our work. So we're moving statewide, so we do work in Clarksville and Montgomery County, and then also in Murfreesboro as well. And then in this year, we actually started doing work statewide, so not just Middle Tennessee, so we actually have a chapter in Knoxville, and then also a growing chapter now in Memphis. So we're looking to do work across the state. Keep going. Next. A lot of our work is focused on community building. So some of the work that we kind of do is just around small businesses. This got started during the pandemic when our local businesses were struggling, just both out of just because of the pandemic, but then also anti-Asian rhetoric. So we started a business directory so we could lift up small businesses. We also have an event calendar, so not just our own, but we also post every Asian and Pacific Islander organization and all Asian Pacific Islander related events on that calendar. And then we just host a lot of community events. Some of these are just focused on networking and bringing people together. Because I think one of the harder parts about Nashville and Tennessee is that our community is so far apart and there's no density. So it's not like Atlanta even, or like California, where a lot of people live all together in one neighborhood, so it's very difficult. Our next piece of our work is civic engagement. So we do register voters. We have a voter registration guide on our website that's translated to multiple languages, including Korean. And then we also look at engagement across the state. So not just getting voters to register to vote, but also getting them to the polls and actually vote, one of the harder parts. And I think it's important to know in Tennessee is that our voter turnout for Tennessee is very low. It's really bad. Actually, it's one of the worst in the country. So if our community shows up to the polls, it's one of the ways we can really be heard. And then we do a lot of advocacy work focused on language access. We are pushing for more language access, including Korean, across the government. And so really making sure that websites and paperwork are all accessible. We also advocate for more general education opportunities and greater representation across the state. Our last bit of work is celebrating identities. And so a lot of this is cultural events. So this photo is actually from the first art museum this last year. So the Korean fan dance team also came out, and the Korean drum team also from here also came out and performed. or hopefully have the fan team, I think, back out this year. But it was really exciting, really cool. And we all have their Heritage Month. May is Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, so we do a lot of work. Yesterday we had our Clarksville celebration. Hungry Tigers also was a sponsor, so we're really grateful for all the work that we're kind of doing just in May. So when I think about our work in Tennessee, we can move to the next slide. There are some really pieces that are really unique, so we can jump to the next slide if we. Yeah. I think one of the things to think about is there is a lot of lack of funding for our community. So across the country in the United States, Asian and Pacific Islander groups are underfunded. For every $100 in the nonprofit sector, only 20 cents goes to organizations like Asian and Pacific Islanders of Tennessee. So it's something that we really need to face and think about in sort of our fundraising, both even just how we get access to government funding as well. One of the key differences too, I think why Tennessee is unique, and maybe even speaking more broadly in the South, is that there are key demographic differences. And it's very hard, I think, sometimes when we talk to national groups, when they're oriented to talk about work being done in California or Washington or New York. That's very different from Tennessee, like really different from Tennessee. And one of the key differences, I think, is that we have an urban and rural divide, which is a lot bigger than people want to really think about. And it's not even that urban versus suburban. I think our demographics need to really think about what does a sub-rural community look like? So what does Jolton and the surrounding areas look like that aren't rural counties, but they're closer to that than they are like cities like Nashville. So I think it's something important to think about. And then our growth is unprecedented, right? So Nashville is one of the fastest growing countries in the United States, and all of the South is actually, it has the most people moving to it in the United States. And I think for Nashville, that's very important for all our regions, right? Clarksville, Montgomery County, according to the last census projections, it's set to be like 13 to 17% Asian by 2040. So 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 people will be people of Asian Pacific Islander descent in Clarksville in the next decade. So it's something important to think about. And there's big industries coming here too, right? I think we all alluded to the earlier, like LG, Hungry Tires, all being here. So I think it's really important as we think about our economic contributions to the state, and also thinking about how do we create cultural hubs for people to come to, right? Like Nashville is getting a Chinatown development here in Antioch this year, but it could be something to think about, like maybe Clarksville should have a little soul, or thinking about what it could be to have a Koreatown somewhere here in Tennessee. Next slide. Yeah, well, one of the things I want to leave you for some of the opportunities to get involved in is Comcast Rise. We are the local partner. So if you live in and own a business here in Nashville or Rutherford County, there is an opportunity for you to get a grant from Comcast for $5,000, and that comes with business consulting, particularly around communications. So it's a really cool opportunity. I will send some of the, we have it translated in Korean, and I will send that to Minhee so she can get it around. But it's a good opportunity, I think. It's a May 31st deadline, super easy application. We're happy to help with that too. So if you know anybody that started in business in the last few years, we can go ahead and provide some of that, because we really think that, you know, through economic power and our contributions through small businesses, a lot of our power we can gain a lot of power that way. Next. One way to also get involved, and this maybe applies to some of the students, we have an Asian and Pacific Islander book drive. We know that there's a lot of teachers and schools that need Asian and Pacific Islander stories there. So we every year we collect, in partnership with the Chinese Community Station, Asian and Pacific Islander books. We also raise funds for these schools and teachers to buy these books too. And then this year we'll also have a few school kits. So we're also focusing on Asian and Pacific Islander curriculum. So if there are Korean books and stories that you really think should be read in schools, or that like should be in school libraries, just send them my way. I'm really happy to share. I think one of our most requested books is actually Crying in Beach Park by Kathy Hong. Like, that's one of the most requested books we have every year. And we have a book review contest for high school students and middle school students to write, and every year we have like 3 students write about Crying in Beach Park. So it's really great to see. And And then for some of the students tier 2, we do have some internship probably opportunities coming up available and volunteer opportunities. So if there's ever anything you want to do in the community, just let me know and just send me an email. We're happy to kind of help find fun, cool things to do. A lot of our work can center around communications work. So if it is just like, creating videos for online content, that'd be one of the things we can do. But we also do a lot of other things where you can maybe work on building out business directories, some nonprofit volunteering stuff. Or if there's any kind of sort of career opportunities that you want to think about in the nonprofit sector, I'm happy to talk about it. Just a few things that we coming up. So in our API Heritage Month celebrations, with the Nashville Sounds, their baseball team, May 9th is our Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Night baseball game. So if you want to come, that's really fun. And then on May 10th, we have a game with the Nashville Soccer Club, recognizing API Clarksville. But that's a really cool game too, and we feature Asian Pacific Islander artists all throughout the game. And then our final event, or our flagship event, is the Arts Festival at the Frisk Museum, which is May 24th. We'll likely have some Korean performers, maybe some Korean vendors as well, but we're working on that right now. So happy to have anybody join us at any of these, but sugar, I think that's all good. Oh, and here's our get involved with for that. I've already answered your Oh, yeah. Every month too, we also have a regular happy hour. This month is at Choi. It's a Chinese-inspired restaurant in the Gulch, and the Comcast representatives will be there too. So if you know anybody who might apply for the grant, they'll be there to answer any questions. Yeah, and Comcast will be giving out a lot of free gifts, so you should go.
질문 또 있으십니까? 질문 없으시면
여기 있으신데요.
예. 미리 이제 물어보지 않겠습니다. 드리겠습니다. 예.
Do you have any Korean American partner organization currently?
So we do a lot of work with the Korean Association in Nashville. So we do a lot of work with them. We also work with some of the local businesses too. So we do highlight some of the grocery stores. I think about Kim's International Market in Murfreesboro. Really small, but they have some of the best banchan, I think, in Middle Tennessee.
Anything like, I saw like a lot like the language assistant for your organization and that, because we are in Washington DC, but remotely we need you need our input for the translation or things like we are willing to do that for you guys.
Yeah, I'll follow up. Language access is a really big issue in our community. And I think one of the things that we're really fighting for are actually for more language access on the driver's license test. Fortunately, it's actually already in Korean. So currently it's offered in 5 languages: English, Spanish, and then the next 3 are Korean, Japanese, and German. And those 3 actually came when automobile manufacturers moved to Tennessee. So when Volkswagen, Hyundai, and then Nissan, when they all moved, that's when those languages got added. So I think it's really important about how it ties together both economic impact, industry, and then access for our community. So I think it's really important to think about how we get more languages. So currently we're advocating for the addition of Vietnamese and Chinese, so both Mandarin and Cantonese, because those are they meet a threshold for limited English proficiency in the population sizes here in Tennessee. So we actually filed a Title VI complaint last week.
Following up Director Song's question, do you know how many languages exist for AAPI currently?
There's so many.
Roughly.
Yeah, there's so many to count, and I think there's also a lot of dialects, like Satri. Like I think about because even like Tagalog, my family is the Philippines. Like Tagalog is the main language, but my mom speaks not Tagalog. She speaks Visayan. So it's hard to count, but I think in Tennessee we probably have about 85 languages represented.
85.
Yeah, and then who meet the limited English proficiency, there's probably about 7 who get really close to the major languages. But I think Korean's actually like the 7th most spoken language in the state.
Okay. Yes.
한국말로 좀 드릴게요. 저기 그 테리보 시의원도 계신데 제가 볼 때 이제 여기 내쉬빌에 한인회가 있는데 한인회관이 없어요. 그래서 그런 장소를 제공할 수 있도록 좀 시나 이런 데서 펀드를 좀 제공할 수 있게 해주셨으면 좋겠습니다. 영어로 좀
Wait for Sue. Important question. And we need your advice.
Yeah, so we do have the Korean American Association here, but we don't have a place and space. So we would like to advocate for that, or if there's anything you can do for that.
Just ideally fine.
Yeah, we're the same. We don't have an office. But I'm working on it, and I actually think with the Nashville Chinatown development, the last stage of the Chinatown development will actually be a cultural event center. So we're looking to see if, and then we're looking to hopefully strategize about that cultural center being an API run space, and then also seeing if they'll likely, hopefully donate some office space for us. So we can start talking about that, because I think it's important that, you know, all our community organizations are together in one spot, just so people can come together and then like all the resources come together. So I think it's important.
Yes.
You briefly talked about how high school students could get involved. Could you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, we're open to anything. So actually, I think I'm supposed to send an email to Hume Fogg actually today about having performers at our first art center. Yes, okay, sweet, okay, yeah, I'll follow up with details, I promise. But we would love to have young people perform at our arts festival. That'd be one easy way to get involved. We also do a lot of art shows, so like, after this I'm going to an art show, but if there were any, like, if any of y'all were doing art, we could help coordinate like a student art show and get a gallery set up. And then other ways that like you all can get involved is just volunteering. So we need people at events to kind of just show people where to park. But then we also can do some more structured work. So like, you know, if you were interested in doing some communication work, we can help with that. If you're interested in like doing some political advocacy work too, we can also help you through that too. So like, what does it look like for you to talk about the issues you care about? How do we find the data? And how do you write like a policy brief that we can share with our local representatives? So we're open to anything.
Do you like recommend any ways like high school students can get more students at their school involved? Because I go to school in Livingston County, and so there's not like a super big like Asian community, and it's like there's not a lot of like clubs and stuff like that that's really like advocating for us. There are like a couple at Ravenwood, but I know a lot of my friends who go to like other schools, they don't have clubs where like people who are like share the same culture as them, they can't really like share with each other through the clubs that I have at my school.
Yeah, I think you can start clubs. So I think one group that's actually a national group is Dear Asian Youth. And so they start local chapters here too. So there is one at Antioch High School and one at MLK. And they both have Dear Asian Youth chapters. So that might be one way to do it. Another thing I think about sharing culture in schools is like an easy way is to create culture days and make sure, you know, Korean culture is represented. So what would it be like to, you know, bring kimchi and japchae along in like a world fair? So that might be one easy way. And then one thing I think about too for Korean in particular is thinking about, you know, how does Korean get introduced into the school curriculum? So like one thing could be, you know, is put pressure on your school and ask them to have Korean classes. Because I think, you know, Korean is like one of the most, like, people are starting to pick Korean as their foreign language requirement in colleges. So not, like, I think we should be advocating for our schools to be offering Korean. One, so like, students can get ahead, and then also to share Korean language. So I think that's a little piece to that too. So like, there are kind of some problems with foreign languages. So that's not always been a thing, but I think it's something we should push forward together. But reach out, send me an email, happy to help.
Thank you.
You got a question behind you?
Sure. I know that we might use the Hugh Blog like collaborate with a lot of things and stuff. So I was wondering how you have the opportunity to contact with the first and stuff like that, because I think that's really exciting. I was just wondering how that process looks.
Yeah, a lot of it is just relationship building and like leveraging your network, right? I know Terry, and Terry knows a ton of people. So that's, you know, like, that's just one piece.
Yeah, that's how you start.
That's how you start, and I think for like the Korean community too, it's just, I think if you just start talking about it and letting people know that this is something you're trying to do, there are people that will come and help you. And that's how our work started too. So like, you know, when API Middle Tennessee got first started, I was just having coffee conversations, and I just asked, I finished every conversation with, who should I talk to next? And then so I just had another dinner, and then I had enough dinners where I just said, let's go start something. But reach out, I'm happy to put you in touch with the person.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we have.
Yeah, if not, I'll find it.
Do you have Instagram?
Yes. API mid TM. You can send us a message there. Anybody can send us.
혹시 더 질문 있으실까요? 없으면
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez.
really great type of networking.
Sorry, I won't be here for today. I'll try.
Now we'll take a short break and enjoy networking. We'll also take a group photo at this time, so please join us.
예, 두 가지만 말씀드리겠습니다. 오늘 끝난 게 아니고요. 나중에 시간 되실 때 여기 만든 포도사 센터에서 있고, 또 지금 그 브레이크함 가기 전에 그룹 포토 포탈이 있습니다. 그래서 그룹 포토를 찍기 위해서 그 어떻게 하면 될까요? 여기서 찍으면 될까요? 예. 포메이션 어떻게 할까요?
That's how it's done.
브레이크 타임 가지기 전에 포토 타임 가겠습니다. 세팅을 하겠습니다.
Even spelling is, yeah, I love it.
빨리 찍고 브레이크를 하고 또 API 인사들이 가셔야 되니까요.
의자를 이렇게 앞에다 세팅해줄까요?
찍을게요.
필요 없나요? 의자 필요 없이? 알겠습니다. 라인을 만들겠습니다. 앞에 한 줄, 뒤에 올라와서 한 줄 이렇게 만들겠습니다. 하나, 둘, 셋. 예, 그룹 포토를 여기 찍겠습니다. 이 부분.
네, 영상 찍을게요.
앞으로 다 나와주시면 됩니다.
앞으로 나와주세요.
나와주시면 됩니다. Please join us to take a photo together.
That looks better.
지금 나오시면 되겠습니다.
자, 나와주세요.
Commission. Photo is forever.
You should step up.
Yes, looks good. Very good.
That's a lot of closet space.
저 안쪽으로 자켓서 클로저 앤 클로저 크신 분들은
다 보여요. 보여요? 네네, 다 보여요. 찍겠습니다. 하나, 둘, 셋. 빨리 한 번 더. 하나, 둘, 셋. 김치. 해내시.
들어오시죠.
네, 됐습니다.
아니요, 돈.
We'll get started, everyone. Welcome back. We want to welcome Pratik Dash, Political Director of the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition.
예, 제가 질문을 드리고 시작하려고 했습니다. 혹시 사실 참 시간 좀 끌려고 그러면 다 안 들어오신 것 같아가지고요. 퀴즈 드리겠습니다. TIRRC가 뭐의 약자일까요? TIRRC. what stands for TIRC? TIRC is? Yes.
There you
Tennessee.
go.
Immigrant.
There we go.
Yeah. And refuge.
Refugee, good. Rights.
Coalition.
Coalition.
Great
Okay.
job. Thank you so much. 정말 감사합니다. 역시 여러분들 똑똑하십니다. 지금 나오신 분은 이 TIRC의 정치 담당 이사님이세요. 그렇죠? Director. So please welcome.
Okay, so just like that, there's going to be some audience participation. I need you all, I'm going to ask some questions.
Yes.
You guys will respond back. So just going to get some energy going. I know it's been a long day for everybody. So I'm here to talk a little bit about how civic engagement can change the whole state of Tennessee. And so if we can go to the next slide, please. And yeah, my name is Pratik Dash. I am the political director of Turcots. I've been doing this work, I've been doing civic engagement work for about 10 years now, so been doing it quite a while here in Tennessee. Our organization, we were founded in 2018, and we build and expand democracy all across the state of Tennessee, and we advocate for equitable and inclusive public policy. So what that basically means, those are big words, that basically means that we are fighting for all immigrants and refugees in the state of Tennessee. And so that has been a big piece of our work. Next slide. We can talk about the history of our work, but we are an organization, we were founded in 2003, and then soon we created an electoral arm, or a voting arm, in 2018. And so we've been helping get people elected. One of my proudest moments was to get Terry Vo elected. We knocked on over 6,000 doors to get Terry elected, and so we help get candidates elected as well, and that's a big piece of our work. Next slide. So where have we won? A lot of people think that winning means getting a candidate elected, but that's not what we see. Winning for us is that we have helped the voter turnout go up 8% in Latino communities, meaning that when we first started, 8% rise in Latino communities is big. In Asian and Pacific Islander communities, we've seen voter turnout go up almost 10 or 12%. And in Black immigrant communities, so like Somalia, Ethiopia, things like that, we're seeing 11 to 14%. As we mentioned, voting in Tennessee is low, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But as we go vote, our vote carries more power. If less people vote, if I go vote, now my vote is much more powerful than if more people voted, right? So it's also looking at it as an opportunity. The other thing that we've done is we've trained people on how to knock on doors. We have trained 556 canvassers from 106 different countries to how to knock on doors and get involved in elections. We believe in building a multi-ethnic, multi-generational democracy. What that means is that we want our world and our country to have different skin colors, to have different ages, and that is a big part of our work. So when we train people, we are not just trying to find people who look the same and go through the same formula. We want people that are different and bring different experiences to our work. Next slide. So, what is our state of play? What does Tennessee look like? Next slide, please. One more slide forward. There we go. Okay, we talked about Tennessee. Tennessee is 46th in voter turnout in the whole country. It's pretty low. It's okay. We used to be 50th, so we're making some improvements. We're no longer at the bottom. But you might be asking why. So let me ask you all, why don't Korean community members vote very often? What is stopping them from voting?
In my case, even I vote some candidate for presidency, I feel like it doesn't count. So even in Korea, I had one presidential vote, and then in here, 4 terms of presidential vote more than Korea, but I did 3 times, one missing, because of, I don't think it's count.
Yeah, the Electoral College is a system that a lot of people don't understand. You hear, whether you live in California or whether you live in Tennessee, oh, it's a blue state, your vote doesn't matter. Oh, it's a red state, your vote doesn't matter, right? We hear that a lot. That's one barrier. What else?
I think a also just a lot of people don't know about the elections and they don't really know who they're voting for.
Yeah.
And I think that's also stopping a lot of people.
Right? We don't have accessibility. It's not like candidates are writing their pages in Korean, right? Like, or it's not like our communities know what's happening. It's not like the people are catering to our communities, right? That's a great one. I think you had one as well.
I assume like the restricted like voter law. I mean like it could count like language access or photo ID or
Yeah, there's a lot of different like barriers of voter suppression, we might say. In California, it's called same-day voter registration. If you want to go register to vote, I can walk in, register to vote right there, and walk to the polls and go vote, right? But in Tennessee, it's not like that. I have to register to vote 30 days before the election, which is a long time, right? I have to register 30 days. So I've had many of my community members and my family who have walked into the polls and they say, oh, sorry, you're not registered, you move, right? And so that's very difficult. Here's the reason why Tennessee is so low also. It's not because Tennessee is trying to stop community members from voting. There are some voter suppression things that are happening. But it's actually because other states are improving their voter opportunities, right? We're seeing same-day voter registration. We're seeing better online voter registration. Tennessee just got online voter registration like 6 years ago. It's brand new to our state. And the system's not great, right? But meanwhile, other states have created other ways to help register voters and expand things. So just saying that there are models that other states are using that we can then advocate for to help our communities. So that's a big part of our work. Next slide. And the other thing that we saw in 2024 is that we saw a little bit of a drop in big cities when it came to voting, right? Especially in Tennessee. Look, Davidson County, Knox County, Montgomery County, Rutherford, and Shelby, all of those areas dipped. And there could have been different reasons. I think it was confusing when the presidential race changed, who's the new presidential candidate in the middle of an election. That could confuse people. I think that a lot of community members are also moving out of these counties, right? How many of you know someone who has moved out of Nashville or out of Memphis because the housing prices are too high? Anyone? Okay, I'm seeing some head nods, okay. So that's a big piece of this too, is that people are moving to other parts of the state and they're not able to stay in these urban hubs, and so we're seeing some downturn. We're also seeing rural vote going up as well. Next slide. So this is a good example of some good statistics though, of what we have been able to do and show that 62% of voters that live in suburban and rural areas, look at the API column, right? Rutherford County, that's not Metro Nashville, that's a little bit to the side. 7% increase in API populations. Davidson County is also growing as well. Montgomery County, there's some folks from Clarksville here, almost 10% increase, right? People are being pushed out of Nashville because they can't afford homes and they're going into these suburban areas. And that's an opportunity for us. We have a way to make some impact in those counties. Next slide. And then there's some threats. We talked about some of the threats. There's a lot of disinformation and misinformation for our community. How many of us have gotten a text on WhatsApp from our mom or from our sister that is completely not true? Right? Was it your mom? Then your mom said right after, be careful, But there's a lot of misinformation that's going around. And they confuses our communities. They don't know what's true and what's not true, things like that. We talked about the voter suppression pieces, and then there's preemption. Does anyone know what preemption is? Okay, so preemption is when, suppose Terry Vo and the city want to pass a particular law that helps the city of Nashville. But then the state of Tennessee says, no, we're going to pass a law that says that Nashville can't do that. And so that is before even Terry and the mayor can even do anything, the state has already stopped it from happening. And so that's what preemption is. We see a lot of preemption in Tennessee. A lot of our state government stops what the city governments want to do sometimes. Next slide. So this is a great example of some mailers that we saw in 2020 and 2022. And the things that I really want to show, if you all see, this is like very hateful language, right? And the other thing that's tough about this is that this is very divisive. Another thing that a lot of people try and do is they try and divide our communities. They try and stop API communities from standing with other immigrant communities, right? And this is the stuff we have to battle. And this is hard. This is really hard to battle. But they play into our emotions, our stereotypes, and I think that it was mentioned earlier that sometimes the Korean community and Asian communities, Indian communities do this too. When they feel threatened, they come together by themselves. They isolate and they don't come together and unify, right? That's what they're trying to do, and we have to fight that divisiveness. Next slide. So, how do we fight back? So this is our 6-step process. The first is deepen and diversify the organizing capacity. There is no way right now, if I walked into a Korean church and tried to register people to vote, I know all those Korean community members would say, get out of here, who are you, please leave, right? But if Minhee goes to register people, suddenly, okay, let's talk, let's register to vote, right? The messengers matter. And I'm gonna tell a quick story. Has anyone been to the Horn Coffee in Nashville? It's a Somali coffee shop. Sora's been there. Okay. The Horn Coffee is a coffee shop that is owned by 2 Somali brothers. When they first bought the business, it was so run down that it was just called Somali Coffee Shop. No one actually knew the name of the shop. But we talked to those brothers, and those brothers said, hey, we would love to register people to vote. Like, we want to get our community involved. So we trained them on how to do that. And suddenly they started registering people to vote. More and more people started coming to the shop, not only because they were getting coffee, but then they would register to vote. Suddenly 50 people registered, 70 people registered, 100 people registered. And we said, this is powerful, we should do a media story about this. And suddenly on News Channel 5, we did a story. And then I remember, about a year later, we ran the story. And Zach and Ahmed, or the 2 brothers, Zach called me, and he said, Pratik, there are white people in my store buying coffee right now. And I said, that's great. And he said, well, I think they saw the story, and they started registering more people to vote. And what ended up happening is their business went up 200%. So the business benefited, right? Now more people are getting involved, and now what happens is when people in that council district run for office, or state people, they go to that shop and they say, what do you want? And that's real power. That's real power built. So messengers really matter in a lot of this work. We also have to grow the electorate, right? There is not enough people. I'm sure all of us know at least one person who is eligible to register to vote who is not voting, right? Or we know people who are registered to vote, but they never go vote. Right? We all know at least one person, right? And so we have to make sure that we're getting people to the polls. It's really important to do that. One thing I like to say is that, can I have 2 volunteers? Just raise your hand, you won't have to say anything. 2 volunteers. Sora and? Roy. So, suppose they're running for mayor, right? 2027, they're gonna run for mayor, right? And we have 10 people who are voting, right? How many people does it take to win the election if 10 people are, Nashville residents? How many people does it take to win the election? 6, right? I need 50%? Okay, but let's say 2 of those people are ineligible to vote. So now we're down to 8, right? They're gone. Then let's say 2 more of those people are, maybe they didn't register. They were eligible, but they didn't register. And then we have 1 other person, they've registered to vote, but they're like, nah, I have work. I don't really want to go vote. It's not important. I'm not going to go vote, right? So when Sora and Royce are running, are they going to talk to the 5 people who don't vote, or are they going to talk to the 5 people who vote? They're going to talk to the 5 people who vote, right? And now, how many people, now that I'm down to 5, how many people does it take to win an election? 3. So there's this narrative that it takes 6 people to win the election of 10, when really it only takes 3. So they're only concentrating on these folks. It's our job to make sure that that 3 turns into 10, and that way they can get more people to vote. Does my example make sense? Great, okay. We also have to cultivate the candidate pipeline. Terry talked a little bit about this, but we're not going to be able to have ourselves represented if people who don't look like us don't run for office. So if you think like, oh, I'll never be able to run for office, I don't understand this, you do have the ability. You can do this. And we need people who look like us to go out and run for office. We also have to vote in local, state, and congressional races. So this goes back to Minhee's thing, saying that my vote doesn't matter. I think a lot of people, when they think about voting, they think about president. But you know where we have the most power is actually local elections. When it comes to city council races, when it comes to mayoral races, and those are people that control your everyday lives way more than the president does. If my streetlight is broken, I'm not gonna say, President Trump, can you come fix my streetlight, right? I'm gonna call Terry Vogt and say, hey, can you come fix my streetlight? You really matter, you know? And these are the people that can change your everyday lives. We also have to change the culture of giving. We have to figure out fundraising. Joseph talked about that. There's not enough investment in Asian communities right now, and we have to figure that out. And lastly is coalition building. We cannot win on our own. The Korean community by itself is not going to make a difference in the state of Tennessee or across the whole country. But if Korean communities can stand with other immigrant communities, can stand with people of color, and can put aside some tensions and differences and talk about it and be honest with them, coalition is not easy, but able to have those conversations, then we can start making strides forward. Everybody understand the six?
Yes.
I know, I said it so quickly and it's so easy, you know, but it takes some time, but it's good. Next slide. We can keep going, we already talked about that. Next slide. So, ways that we like to communicate with our communities. This is what Turk Votes does. We do voter registration. We have a robust get out the vote program. So we knock on doors, we call people, we text people, we mail people. We talk to every immigrant voter that is in the state of Tennessee. If you have probably received at least a piece of our mail if you are registered to vote in this state. There are 200,000 immigrant voters in the state of Tennessee. We talk to every single one of them every year. Somehow. You might get a text from us, and you might ignore our text, and that's okay. We understand. But we make sure that we reach out to you. We also do digital ads. We do voting parties. And so sometimes, Joseph may have touched on this, but we will get people to come vote together. And so people sometimes are intimidated to vote when they have to do it by themselves. But imagine you're throwing a party and you have some amazing food there and you have the Korean fan dancers there. Suddenly the Korean community is like, oh, I'd love to go vote together and make that happen. So we do voting parties. We do Spanish language media and ethnic media, so different community members. Am I in your way? I can step over. There we go. I see people taking pictures. We also reach out to different ethnic media. So for Korean community members, we actually reach out to Korean news stations in Korea to run some of our ads because we know you all are watching Korean TV. So we're actually putting our ads there so that way you all can see it because that's what we have to do. We have to meet people where they're at. And lastly, traditional media. We want to get you all on TV, telling your stories and sharing that. Next slide. So this is what we did in 2024. We knocked on 60,000 doors across the state. We sent 200,000 postcards. Many of you who are in this room helped write some of those postcards, and we did those in language. We made 75,000 phone calls, and we talked to 200,000 voters. We basically had 1 million voter touches all year in 2024. And that's more than a lot of campaigns do in the state of Tennessee. And so we're really proud of that, and I think it makes a big impact. Next slide. So, show me proof. Show me that this really matters. How do you prove it? And we're not talking about candidates winning and losing, right? Show me proof that this works. Next slide. So I don't know, did anyone hear about House Bill 793? It was a bill that was introduced in January that was basically introduced to stop undocumented children from going to public school in Tennessee. Now, I know that unlike the Latino community, the Korean community, and the Indian community, my community too, there are undocumented people in our communities, right? And I think it's a little different because our communities have not come out of the shadows and, we're not out there talking about it as much, especially in the South and especially in 2025, right? And so this was a bill that was going to stop all undocumented youth that lived in the state of Tennessee from going to school, to public school. It's a very cruel bill. We thought it was very mean-spirited. But in the state of Tennessee, which has, it's a very Republican-leaning supermajority in the state. And so when bills like this get introduced, normally they usually pass because it's very hard to fight back. And we thought in this moment, we thought that this bill is probably going to pass. It's unconstitutional. It stops the, there's a bill called Plyler v. Doe in the Supreme Court. And what they are trying to do is they're trying to erode Plyler v. Doe in Tennessee. So they're saying if they can pass it in Tennessee, then it can go away in the Constitution. And so the rest of the country would then say that undocumented kids could not go to public school. We're not talking about high schoolers. We are talking about 6, 7, 8-year-olds unable to go to school. So it's scary stuff, right? So the first thing we did is we built a coalition. We had 60 different organizations across the state of Tennessee that were involved and and decided that they were going to get involved. Many of them were education-based, but we started getting more immigrant organizations as well, and so more and more organizations started to get involved. Next slide. We also phone banked. The same people that we phone banked when it came to voting, we called them back. And it was a virtual opportunity, and we called 60,000 people, and we asked them, look, can you please call your legislator and tell them that, their vote matters on this? And you know what? They did. And here's the other thing that's really powerful is that they said, like, no matter how you feel about immigrants and, the border policies and things, what they did say was that we shouldn't punish children for this. And no matter what side of the spectrum they lied on, whether they were Democrat, whether they were Republican, or whether they were independent, they said, we should let kids learn. Kids deserve to go to school. Next slide. So this is where the story really becomes super powerful. We talked about, I think that there's a lot of times where people think when it comes to talking to these legislators that there needs to be a specific qualification to do it. My English needs to be good. I have to have a college degree or a master's degree and be a super academic. You know who spoke for us? It wasn't any of that. It was this 11-year-old child. Damien walked up, took the mic, and told his story and why he deserves to go to school. And when Damien did that, that's when we started seeing hearts and minds change. It wasn't a professor saying, this is the economic benefit of whatever, none of that. It wasn't anything, it was just an 11-year-old kid who took the mic and said, this is my story, I deserve to go to school, please let me. He wasn't an expert on anything except his own story, and it made a huge impact on the rest of the state and the rest of the country. And Damien's parents, who are also undocumented, I remember we talked to them and many other parents, and we had told them, we said, look, we understand if you're scared, you do not have, they are from Knoxville, Tennessee. They had to drive 3.5 hours to share their story. And we said, you do not have to drive this far. If Damien does not want to speak, we understand. If you all are scared to drive this far because of your immigration status, we also understand. And his parents said, we came to this country and sacrificed so much for our child's education. We are not going to let anything get in the way of that. And so a huge credit to him and his family. And Damien gave a beautiful testimony, and I will send the video over to me to spread to all of you, and I recommend giving it a watch. But he did an incredible job, and he answered questions from legislators. Legislators asked him questions, and he answered them to the best of his ability. But it wasn't about what he was saying. It was about who the messenger was, right? Next slide. And then Damien inspired more kids to get involved. So Damien reached out to his fellow students, and he got so many elementary and high school students who wanted to stand up for him, who came and marched on the Capitol and stood up for education. Next slide. And that's when, once an 11-year-old child starts criticizing folks, that's when the legislators who had brought the bill suddenly started dealing with some of their repercussions. And so we see Bo Watson, who was the Senate sponsor, he started getting some pushback from small business owners. He started getting pushback from school boards. There were many school boards that said, we didn't ask for this, we live in your district, why did you introduce this? So we started seeing some pushback there. Next slide. And then we had other kids step up, right? Like I said, we cannot win alone, right? If it's just one community going out there, it's not gonna work. And so now we have other white children who are walking up and saying, don't take away my friends. My friends matter. And on top of that, they were very strategic. We live in Tennessee, which is a very Christian state. And so she held the Bible. She said the Bible says that we should welcome everyone. And she had her Bible, and she read from that Bible to make sure that those people understood. If you're going to claim to be Christian, you have to follow Christian values. Next slide. And I want to just say, like, as we're doing this, now she brought the Bible. Suddenly we have faith leaders, pastors, everybody's coming in now saying that. We stopped the committee meeting because we said the Lord's Prayer over and over and over again. Some separation of church and state. There's some lines blurred there, but that's okay. We live in the South. We're figuring it out. But this all came because all we did was we asked people if they would be registered to vote. That's where it started. And I'm really trying to connect some dots here. Next slide. The then school board started saying, well, if faith leaders are getting involved, we have to get involved. And so school board started saying, we're going to make a resolution that this bill is bad, right? So they started doing that. And all of this happened from March and April. Like this is an 8-week span. Next slide. Again, more school boards saying no, including the home district. Next slide. And then on April 14th, we marched on the Capitol. And we didn't have a lot of people. I want to be clear, a lot of people see these marches and they think, oh my gosh, you have 1,000 people, 1,500 people. We didn't have that. We only had 300 people there. But we had a visual. We all wore our graduation caps because everyone deserves a chance at an education and a chance to graduate. And at the very end, we said, we are going to kill this bill no matter what. And we took our hats and we threw them in the air. And it came out with this amazing picture, which then suddenly legislators started asking about. And they gave questions. Are you going to stop people from graduating? How does this work? When the kids get kicked out of school, where do they go? What happens next? Next slide. And we won. We stopped that bill from passing, which is huge. It's really, really big deal. And again, if somebody had asked me in January if we were going to pass this bill or not, I would have said that bill's going to pass. We have no chance, right? But we stopped it. Now, they're going to bring this bill back in 2026. And the reason why I'm telling you all that is that because I think that there are Korean community members whose children are affected by this bill. And so this fight has not stopped. We're going to continue to build all this year so that in January of next year, we're ready to pick up where we left off. But I wanted to say, like, the civic engagement pieces here, because we talked to people about voting, we built trust in the community. So when we called again, they said, oh yeah, you talked to me before, I would love to get involved in your campaign, right? I think sometimes we think that, one of the things that I like to talk about is how change happens. I'm gonna tell one more quick story. So in 2016, there was a Burmese refugee housing, affordable housing complex. This community had about 60 Burmese families that lived there, but there were only like 4 or 5 cars. Basically, the community was very close-knit together. And the affordable housing contract expired, and a new person came and bought the apartment complex. And he said, look, he told the Burmese families, he said, look, if you leave and come back in a month, I will have renovated your apartment for you. Sounds a little fishy, right? And so they left. They found a place to stay for a month. They came back, and when they came back, the apartment complex owner said, I'm so sorry, you don't make the economic requirement it takes to take this apartment. We're so sorry, you can't live here. So they called us. And we tried to talk to this apartment complex owner, and this guy was not having it. He said, look, I gotta make my money. This families, I'm sorry for what they're going through, but it is what it is. I'm so sorry, right? And so we thought we lost. We walked out of there, we thought we lost, but we kept following up. We kept telling those stories. Even 6 months later, a year later, we did a follow-up piece after a year, what has happened, things like that. 2 years after that happened, I'm speaking at an event similar to this, and the apartment complex owner who was there, he is sitting in the back row. And I remember saying, this is bad news. This guy's gonna be like a problem. Event ends, he rushes up, he says, hey, you, I wanna talk to you. Yells at me a little bit. And I'm like, what is going on? So we get into a private room. When we're in that private room, he says, I want you to know that I kind of forgot about the apartment complex thing, but you guys ran that 1 year story. So I went back and I found all 60 families and I paid their rent for a year.
Wow.
And he is a major donor of our organization now. So the reason why I'm saying that is that it is not our job to change people's minds right off the immediate. We are not gamblers, we are gardeners, right? We plant seeds of change, no matter how rocky the soil is. And in Tennessee, the soil is rocky. It is very rocky. But it is our job to continually plant seeds. We keep planting, we keep planting, we keep planting. If the flower blooms in 2 years, in 20 years, in 200 years, does not matter. That we can't control that. But what we can control is planting the seeds. We will lose and when we give up planting seeds, it's over. And so I think my message to all of you all, when it comes to the Korean community, when it comes to civic engagement, is like, how do we start teaching people to plant seeds? Because that's the most important thing. Don't worry about all the results and everything. We need to start planting seeds right now. So that's a big piece of this. Next slide. One more after that, sorry. So yeah, how do you get involved? Like I said, don't sit on the sidelines. Please follow us on Instagram for all the young folks. And we have 3 different organizations that do that. We also have some jobs and internships available, so if that's something you want to be a part of, please let us know. But yeah, I don't really have much more than that. I just came up here and shared a few stories. But I just wanted to say I'm also humbled and honored to be in this space, and I really do believe that there is power when it comes to the Korean community here in Tennessee. And so anything I can do to help build it, I'm all the way in and ready to throw down with you all. And I like to say that I feel like once I do things like this, like we're family, and so you guys can't get rid of me. I'm gonna keep coming back. And so I appreciate you all so much. And so thank you. And I'll leave it for questions if anyone has any.
없으시면 뭐 자동으로 가야 될 것 같은데. 혹시 오르메리코님.
This question is more like specific about the organization. How you guys then can raise the money? Because like you said, like 501c4.
Yes.
Now you can tax exemption. So where the majority like your financial resources from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a 501c3 arm, and then we have a 501c4. So our 501c3 does get grants and also has a membership kind of organization. So a lot of our members help fuel a lot of that. Our 501c4 is really funded by individual donors who care about the change in Tennessee, as well as a few national organizations that are helping grant those. We do not take any federal funding, no matter which side of the aisle it comes from. We believe that when in a state like Tennessee, that no matter who's in the administration, like we believe that no administration will save us, right? Like it is going to be community that saves us, so we really focus on community building grants and community supporting community. Thank you.
질문이 any questions? Okay. 질문이 없으시면 다음 순서로 넘어가도록 하겠습니다. Thank you so much.
Now let's welcome our youth leaders, Joy Teal and Sora Hao. Please welcome Joy Teal from Overton High School.
다음 저희의 차세대 리더인 조이틸 학생의 이야기를 한번 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 큰 박수로 맞이해주시면 감사합니다.
Good evening. My name is Joy Teal, and I'm a senior graduating from Overton High School. I'm both honored and privileged to speak to you guys tonight.
Mike.
Right. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So as a Korean American, I've faced many challenges that I feel like many others have also faced. One of the most significant ones being the divide I felt between being both Korean and American. So for some background, my father is half Korean and half American, and my mother is fully Korean. So my father, he speaks only English, and my mom, she can fluently speak both English and Korean, sorry. So naturally, I grew up speaking English because in America, English is the primary language. So despite my mom's best efforts to teach me, I found it difficult to embrace a language that felt unfamiliar, and especially when everyone around me spoke English. So at the time, I didn't care about learning Korean, and I felt ashamed of being different. My differences went beyond language, and they showed in the values I held, as I was very respectful to my elders, and in the food I brought to school, which others would call stinky, and would complain about the smells. Kids would ask if I was Chinese and mock me by saying words like ching chong, and it was very hurtful and alienating. So by the time I finished middle school, I could only understand basic words and phrases my mom used at home. But when I went to high school, everything began to change. I started to watch Korean dramas and variety shows, and my friends were genuinely curious about my culture and wanted to learn more. So for the first time, I began to see the beauty of my heritage, and I realized that being Korean wasn't something to hide, but it was something to celebrate. I wanted to reconnect with my roots and better understand my identity. That journey, however, was not easy because learning Korean and reclaiming this lost connection was deeply personal and emotionally challenging. I would often feel embarrassed because I would have to ask my mom to translate words that I felt I should already have known, and I would often forget meanings of these words and make mistakes in the way I spoke. And so in moments when I felt frustrated, I often took it out on her. So in these moments, I felt regret, and it helped me to process that this was not just hard for me, but also for my family. But still, through my mom's patience, I could persevere, and it helped me to keep going. So over time, and even now as I continue to learn the Korean language, I continue to grow, and I've learned to be patient with my progress and proud of my resilience. I now carry a deeper appreciation for who I am and where I come from, and in addition to this cultural journey, I've also had to navigate this feeling of being American and Korean. I wasn't just different from my American peers, but I was also different from Koreans. And I would struggle with subtle comments from Korean elders who reminded me I wasn't fully Korean, and I never quite blended in with Americans because of how I looked. This was an identity battle I had to confront, but through it I found my self-worth, and I came to realize that my identity wasn't a weakness, but it was a strength. So I now see the blend of my cultures in my life as something powerful, and I've learned to be both respectful and kind to my elders while also speaking my mind when needed. I can also relate to many different kinds of people, and I approach others with empathy because I've experienced what it feels like to be misunderstood. So I am both Korean and American, and I'm proud to be both. I've learned to be resilient in the face of subtle racism, microaggressions, and stereotypes. While these experiences were frustrating, they also pushed me to speak up, educate others, and most importantly, be proud of who I am. In Nashville, I've been given many opportunities to grow and flourish. I attended the Korean School of Nashville, where I continued learning and the language, and today I've graduated from. My understanding of Korean culture and language has allowed me to form deeper connections and bridge cultural gaps with others. And through my experience as a Korean American, I developed a perspective that helped me write an essay that earned me a full scholarship to Vanderbilt University. And so now tonight, I stand before you, grateful for this opportunity to share my story as a Korean American in Nashville. 고맙습니다.
Thank you so much, Joy. Now let's welcome our next youth leader, Sora Hub.
다음은 마지막 순서가 되겠습니다. 네, 소라허 양 레이블드 하이 하이스쿨 10학년인데요. 또 어떤 스토리를 가지고 왔는지 굉장히 궁금합니다. 함께 들어보는 시간 갖도록 하겠습니다.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
My name is Sora and I'm a sophomore at Raymond High School. Go Raptors! A little fact about me, I was born in a small town just north of Nashville called Clarksville. From the ripe age of 8 months old, I was in a full-time daycare. At that point, both my siblings were in school and my parents worked in downtown Nashville. I grew up in a place where there weren't any kids who looked like me. And at such a young age, you don't realize that you're different. You think that the only reason someone wouldn't want to be friends with you is because you didn't share your fruit snacks at lunch or because you didn't let them have the good pillow during nap time. You don't know that your best friend from last year wouldn't want to be friends anymore because her mom said so. That's really hard to understand as a little girl. I didn't know anyone who was my age and who looked like me until I was in first grade when we moved to Brentwood. If you knew me when I was around 7 years old, you know that I was a very shy and timid girl. I didn't know how to make conversation, and frankly, I was pretty afraid of people. That was until I met my childhood best friend, Aoi. We were like peas in a pod. You'd never see us apart, and ironically, if you put our names together, the Japanese translation was blue sky. It was as if it was meant to be. Aoi helped me get out of my shell, and together we made a lot of friends. In the middle of third grade, Aoi moved back to Japan, and I had to figure out how to make friends on my own. It was hard because I was only really outgoing when I was with her. I never really felt like I belonged. When I would try to get closer to the Korean kids in my grade, I felt like I wasn't Korean enough for them. I couldn't just spontaneously speak Korean. I really had to think about it first. And when I tried to get closer to the other kids, I felt like I wasn't American enough for them. I brought and ate Korean food at lunch, and most times I couldn't relate to what they were talking about. By the time middle school came around, I began to be more sociable with people outside the ones I went to elementary school with. I reconnected with my friend Janie, and I envied her a little bit because she was like the perfect Korean child in my mind. She could speak perfect Korean and was incredibly smart, and she could play the piano really well. She helped me understand that that's not what keeps you close to your culture. It's simply embracing it and having a willingness to learn more about it. I love speaking with my family and hearing all the stories from my grandpa about how he sold potatoes to support his family, or stories about our family ancestry from my mom. Those aren't just stories, but they're not just memories. They're a part of me and who I am, and they remind me where I come from. Over time, I realized that being Korean American doesn't mean you have to fit into a perfect mold. It's okay to exist in the in-between and be a mix of languages and customs and still belong. As I've gotten older, I've come to understand that who I am today isn't just defined by one culture. it's shaped by my Korean roots and my American experiences. My Korean culture is a part of my heart. It's in the food I eat that represents my culture and traditions and honoring the people who came before me. It's in my respect for my elders that's been instilled in me, to bow to those who are older, not just as a formality, but as a sign of gratitude. I've also learned that my American culture is just as much a part of me. The opportunities to express myself, the opportunities to be independent, and to build my own path are things I've embraced growing up in this country. I'm someone who enjoys a meal of kimchi pop and kim, but also cheer for my school football team on a Friday night with my friends. Go Raptors! Both cultures have taught me different values, but together they've made me who I am. I'm proud of that mix. It's not something I need to choose between. Our identities don't have to be either or. I'm not just Korean or just American. I'm a blend of both. Fast forward to now, if you were to ask anyone who knows me, they might use words like outgoing or sociable to describe me. But beyond that, I want to be the kind of role model to young Korean Americans who are feeling the same way I felt when I was their age and can look up to. Someone who helps them understand that they're not alone, that they should be proud of their culture and to embrace it. I want to be the kind of person I could have looked up to when I was younger. I'm proud of my Korean heritage, I'm proud of my story, and most of all, I'm proud of who I am today. Thank you.
So much, Sora. Now let's take a moment to recognize and appreciate our youth leaders, Scarlett Park, Joy Teal, Sora Ho, with a plaque of appreciation.
우리 청소년들의 이야기를 들어보니까 굉장히 감동이 되고 이 자리가 저희의 미래를 보는 시간인 것 같습니다. 그게 더 의미가 있는 시간인 것 같습니다. 다음 순서는 좀 더 특별한 시간이 되는 것 같습니다. 다음 순서 부탁드리겠습니다.
Please come back to the stage, Joy Teal and Sora Ho.
별 수상식이 있겠습니다.
되게 어려운 일이거든요. 제가 학생들을 되게 많이 컨택을 하고 또 한글 학교 또 그 외에 다른 것들도 컨택을 많이 했었는데 스피킹을 할 수 있는 친구들을 찾는 게 너무너무 어려웠어요. 그리고 제가 애가 셋인데 두 아이는 대학을 다니고 있고 이 친구가 막내예요. 너는 나를 도와줘야 된다. 굉장히 많이 푸시를 했었거든요. 그리고 이 스피킹을 준비를 하면서 제가 몰랐던 제 딸을 알았어요. 정말 몰랐던 얘기 어저께 좀 많이 슬펐거든요. 이야기를 듣고서. 그래도 너무 잘 자라줘서 감사하고 또 여기 조이 양 있지만 밴더빌트 가기 쉬운 학교가 아니거든요. 근데 풀 장학생으로도 갈 수 있고 너무 자랑스럽습니다. 두 학생들이. 그래서 제가 작지만 상장을 좀 드리고 싶어서 상장이 아니라 상패로 준비했습니다. 그래서 대학교 가고 또 대학교 이후에 또 고등학교에서 또 대학교 갈 때 이 상장이 두 분한테 아주 큰 의미로 좀 다가왔으면 좋겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you everyone for being here today. Now let's welcome Dr. Daniel Yu for the closing remarks.
예, 마지막 폐회사는 어번대학교의 평생교육원 그리고 아웃리치 프로그램의 어시스턴트 디렉터로 계시는 유동우 박사님 모시고 마지막 폐회사를 듣도록 하겠습니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 어번대학교의 어시스턴트 디렉터로 있는 유동우입니다. 우선 이렇게 좋은 행사를 마련해 주시고 준비해 주신 우리 허민희 회장님과 특히 내쉬빌 한인회 여러분께 감사를 드립니다. 우리 뜨거운 박수로 우리 허민희 그리고 이렇게 보니까는 저기 멀리서 권정희 회장님 그리고 예쁜 에어프런을 입고 계시는 KAWA 우리 회원님들 그다음에 내쉬빌 회장님 너무 감사했습니다. 이렇게 보니까 너무 좋았고요. 이렇게 행사를 잘 하게끔 물질적으로 또 몸으로 이렇게 도와주셔서 너무 감사드리고 그다음에 멀리서 우리 서산교 초등교사님 대신해서 오신 박유리 여기사님과 김현정 선생님 감사드립니다. 그다음에 어디 계시죠? 여기 우리 백현미 회장님. 저는 웬 모델이 오시는 줄 알았어요. 한복을 입으시고 너무 예쁘게 오셔서 이렇게 오셔서 너무 감사합니다. 이렇게 정말 많은 분들이 여기가 내쉬빌 저희가 이제 지금 행사를 알라바마 어반에서 하다가 헌츠빌 그다음에 내쉬빌 그다음에 몽고메리 이렇게 돌아가면서 하고 있는데 내쉬빌에서는 이제 다른 주죠. 테네시 이제 알라바마 비하면 다른 주인데 이게 와서 보니까 너무나 그렇게 여러분들이 열심히 해주시고 또 뭔가 이게 끈끈한 정이 느껴져서 너무 좋았습니다. 너무 감사드립니다. 그리고 지금 저희가 이 행사를 시작한 지가 지금 6회째지만요. 저희가 2019년에 시작했습니다. 그러니까 7년째 돼갑니다. 그래서 조금 있으면 이제 10년이 돼가는데 오늘 이렇게 보니까는 해가 가면서 이 발표하는 내용과 그다음에 준비하는 속길들이 굉장히 이렇게 좀 더 성숙되어가는 느낌을 받습니다. 그래서 저는 오늘 특히 느낀 거는 젊은 세대들이 한국인의 아이덴티티를 위해서 알아가면서 이 땅에 뿌리를 내리기 위해서 얼마나 발버둥을 치고 고민을 하는지 그리고 얼마나 멋있게 성장하는지를 보고 너무 기분이 좋았습니다. 그래서 저희가 힘을 합해서 한인들이 이 땅에서 뿌리를 내리고 그리고 뿌리를 내리면서 멋진 나무로 많은 그늘을 만들어서 또 많은 사람들이 그 그늘 밑에서 시원하게 또 편히 쉴 수 있는 그러한 한인 커뮤니티가 되기를 기원합니다. 그래서 여러분들 또 멀리서 또 이렇게 늦게까지 토요일을 이렇게 저희들과 함께 우리 한국인 한인만을 위해서 이렇게 생각하는 시간을 가져서 너무 감사하고 또 내년에도 또 좋은 토픽과 행사로서 또 우리가 같이 또 만날 것을 기대합니다. 그래서 가실 때도 운전 조심해서 가시고 또 돌아가셔서도 또 각자 일에 또 우리 한인으로서 긍지를 가지시고 살아가시기를 간절히 바라면서 끝나고 또 저희 식사했을 때 또 같이 치교를 나누도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you to everyone for being here today. It's been an honor to witness such inspiring discussions and presentations. Before we conclude, we would like to remind everybody that we have a short satisfaction survey and dinner boxes are available for you to enjoy. Please feel free to take one before you leave.
오늘 긴 시간 함께 해주셔서 정말 감사드리고요. 두 가지 꼭 잊지 마세요. 첫 번째는 서베이 있으니까 꼭 해주시면 감사하겠고요. 그리고 마지막으로 도시락이 준비되어 있답니다. 맞습니까? 도시락 꼭 드시고 함께 교제하는 시간 가졌으면 좋겠습니다. 지금까지 저희는 천명기
안정환이었습니다.
감사합니다. 수고 많으셨어요.